the street. When we defeat, it's empty, gonna feel incomplete. Feeling half awake and half asleep. Would rather be asleep and dream the days of peace.
I'm becoming everything that I want to be. Someone tell me, what should I do next? So don't make me already lost my keys to the door. Why shack? Only had one wish. Now it's never gonna come true. Trapped in time, forever in remorse. How could I ever be in this when nothing else matters to me? Leave me out. I don't wanna fight. But if you insist, there will be consequences.
It's like I'm getting stuck on my face when I'm down on the ground. Do I survive the worst, but the worst has yet to come. And I don't do this to me now, I'm going numb.
Do not make me already lost my keys to the door. Why shine? Only had one wish. Now it's never gonna come true. Trapped in time, forever in remorse. How could I ever be in this when nothing else matters to me? Don't you make me do this? Don't you make me do this? Don't you make me? Don't you make me? Don't even try. What you want from me? Better stop pushing. 'Cause I won't tolerate it.
There's no returning, no matter how much you want it. It burns me to the core of my body, no, no. Now is not the right time for anything, so stop floating.
Stay away from me. Already lost my keys to the door. Why shack? Only had one wish. Now it's never gonna come true. Trapped in time, forever in remorse. How could I ever be in this when nothing else matters to me?
If you want a battle, then I take it to the street. When we defeat, it's empty, gonna feel incomplete. Feeling half awake and half asleep. Would rather be asleep and dream the days of peace.
I'm becoming everything that I want to be. Someone tell me, what should I do next? So don't make me already lost my keys to the door. Why shack? Only had one wish. Now it's never gonna come true. Trapped in time, forever in remorse. How could I ever be in this when nothing else matters to me?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh my god. Princess Monocle, you are a lifesaver. You are a lifesaver. That is so frustrating. I say this whole thing, and then I'm like, I gotta say it again. There's no way to, like, just rerun the, anyway, chat. Where was I? I was trying to explain to you that today was supposed to be the day for catching up on politics, right? We usually cover a lot of politics. We've been covering a hell of a lot of politics. And we didn't get it to do it yesterday because we were all on this theory. I don't know, some people, do people find the theory boring? Do people find this kind of stuff to be boring? Maybe a little bit. Not my usual content, but we had to do it. We had to do it because it's a parody of Sunday stream. And it felt like a one-off deal. It felt like, okay, we're going to talk about Sunday for today, and then we can pay attention to more important things, better things, funner things, like better people to make fun of, like Trump and JD Vance, and we will be doing some serious ridicule of Trump and JD Vance, but I thought the theory was a little slow. Yeah, you're not. I don't think you're the only one. I don't think you're the only one. I think it's hit or miss, right? I wasn't just giving you theory. I was giving you semiotics. But we gotta do our parody of Sunday. But yeah, thanks to you, chat. Thanks to chatters like you, we didn't get stuck in it. Because I set it up in a way where we could have gotten stuck in it, right? And I was worried about that. I was really worried that people's reaction to me covering theory, even as a joke, was just to be like, I am not here for theory. All right? I'm here for other stuff. And if you're not going to provide that, then I am out of there. But instead of doing that, everybody got together and they smashed the dono goal. I don't think that the dono goal has been wrecked like this in a long time. The drama weasel got fed really quickly. Yeah, the drama weasel got all of its food really quickly, and everything ended up being okay. But yeah, apparently there's more drama to cover today as well. But like I said, we're going to start off. We're all in a cozy short stream, aren't we, on YouTube? What's up, YouTubers? I got to get to my thing. Hello, Afghan Resistance. Good to see you. I'm much worried about our friend. I have not heard from her either. I meant to check in on her. If you don't know, a friend of the show, Shakespeare, was mentioned in a not very nice way on President Sunday's stream. I'm told. I haven't seen it yet, but this is what I'm told. 34 felony convictions, and he can possibly get the job as president? Yeah, no, that's even got to be weirder for people outside of the United States, right? I mean, it's bad if you're in the United States. But yeah, BC Clarity Mellon had the... yeah, Timothy Jones, BC Clarity Mellon, Ceres, BCAT K. I gotta shout out the people that let me know that I was actually muted. Anyway, we gotta jump into this pretty quick, and I've got all kinds of content for you. The most content.
Good evening from New York. I'm...
The only question is, what do we start with? And yeah, I mean, actually, this is as good as anything. So I probably have to switch. No, we're good. We're good. Oh yeah, we're supposed to do the thing, aren't we? Press this button. And I guess I'll press this button. It doesn't really matter, but... And then we go over here and we press. Like I said, chat, we'll be checking in on the developing drama situation as we proceed, and I'll probably have us just raid into like a normal size stream. Right now, we're trying something out. We're trying to do the we're doing the short stream by itself, see how that works, and then we'll probably raid into the full scale stream later on. How does that sound? Because I feel like here's the deal. Shorts, you want to see stuff about politics, mainstream politics, large figures, stuff like that, right? And full scale stream, they want to see like more niche stuff. They want to see stuff that's from the streamer space. So I think I've got it. And Twitch, you're just along for the ride, and we're glad to have you too. My Twitch is kind of popping off again. I will not be so déprimé on this chat this night. Oh, no, you're okay, Afghan Resistance. I'm worried too. All right. I don't like Sunday bullying people. I don't like, I mean, Sunday, like I said, this guy just loves to punch down. Anyway, we'll get to him when we get to him. Trust me. All right. Trust me. I'll be checking in on it, and we'll give you kind of an update of everything that's happened, because a lot has happened. If you're watching last night's stream, the whole confrontation, or it's not really a confrontation, just Sunday trying to drunkenly take down FD Signifier, failing miserably, alienating a bunch of his chat, and posting major cringe. And it turns out that somebody was listening. Somebody was aware. Somebody found out about that, and it might have been FD Signifier. That's right. So we got a real freaking situation on our hands now. Like I said, we'll get to that when we get to that. Right now, I'm going to talk to you about something that's gone on with Donald Trump. So if you've been following the campaign, you know that maybe a month ago, a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, Donald Trump was sitting really pretty, right? He looked like he was going to win, and that there was no but about it. Biden was not really a challenge to him. Biden had just been sinking in the polls since like October of last year, and it kind of looked pretty clear at this point that Biden had no chance, meaning that Trump would be, would be getting back into the Oval Office, right? And that means a lot for him because Donald Trump has got, as somebody mentioned earlier, indictments, charges chasing him. He's got a lot coming down the line for him legally. The only way he gets out of that completely is if he's president. If he's president, he can stop those investigations. He can stop those cases until he's out of office. And for a lot of those cases, it means those cases go bye-bye. Because the only way to deal with a sitting president who is a criminal like Donald Trump is if the Senate actually does the right thing and votes to remove him from office. Given that the Senate is going to be 50-50, most likely, or very close to that, that's not bloody likely. That's not bloody likely to happen. So for that reason, it was looking like Trump was just going to get away with everything. And what a difference a month makes. What a difference 2 months make, right? Everything has gone upside down. And now people are, I would say, on the Democratic side of things, people are getting a little too ahead of themselves. They're getting a little too excited. They're getting a little overconfident. I don't think that like the race is decided at this point by any means, but Donald Trump does keep eating these unforced L's, unforced L after unforced L. So yeah, we're going to check in. This is Chris Hayes talking about an altercation involving Donald Trump that happened at Arlington Cemetery. So the background on this is that Trump went to Arlington Cemetery in order to do a photo op, really, right? A year ago, no, I don't think it was a year ago. I think it was a certain number of years ago, right? But it's the anniversary of an attack that happened in Afghanistan. And, as part of the pullout. And so Donald Trump is going hard trying to blame the messy pullout of Afghanistan on Biden and Kamala, even though he was too cowardly. He was too cowardly to end that forever war, right? People that say that Trump is the candidate of peace, I don't know what they're talking about, right? This is this is a guy that stayed in Afghanistan, continued this occupation, right? The easiest thing to do, the most obvious thing to do, if you are a president that even if you're just an isolationist like Trump and you don't want the U.S. to be involved in wars, get the U.S. out of the occupation of Afghanistan, right? They've been there long enough. They've been there too long. And he couldn't do that. He couldn't do that because he knew that it would probably look messy. He knew that the puppet government that the United States set up was not going to be stable, just like, anywhere. Somebody comes into your country, says, this is your government now. When they go away, you're going to be likely to be like, that's not my government. I didn't choose them. These aren't my people. So yeah, that's what happened in Afghanistan. And, Trump didn't want to bear the consequences of it. Biden, pulled out a lot of, pulled out in a fucked up way that left a bunch of U.S. equipment behind. And Trump's trying to make as much hay of that as possible and say that he stands for the soldiers that Biden let down. So that's why Trump is at Arlington Cemetery laying wreaths, apparently. And there are families that are pro-Trump. There are families of U.S. military people that were killed in Afghanistan that wanted Trump there. So it's not like he came there without any sort of invitation. However, that's a big graveyard. Because the United States does a lot of wars, okay? It's a big, big graveyard. And there are other people, whose relatives are buried there that do not want Donald Trump taking a photo op in front of their loved one's gravesite. And that's exactly what Trump did. He pushed his way into areas that apparently he was not supposed to be in. He was not authorized to be in. And, to get his photo op, to get his freaking photo op. And this caused a conflict that may or may not have been a physical altercation. We don't know for sure, right? There's people on both sides saying different things. Trump says that he and his team have footage of it, and they're threatening to release it because they say that exonerates, Trump and his team. They're characterizing the person that was in the graveyard in Arlington Cemetery, just doing their job, saying you can't film here. They called this person mentally unstable, and the person could have pressed charges against Trump's team. However, they did not, because they're scared of being targeted by Trump's weird fan base. So that's where we're at now. Let's see if Chris Hayes can kind of orient us into what's going on here.
Chris Hayes, we are 69 days out from the presidential election. And if there's one thing we know about Donald Trump, no matter where we are in the campaign, no matter what the polls are up and down, is that he is going to be exactly who he is all the time, every day, no matter what. And nothing ever really seems to stick to him politically, at least not enough. He was just indicted all over again by another federal grand jury. He is celebrating an endorsement from a suspected whale decapitator. More on that later.
Is that really what you're going to lead with? That's the main thing. It's the most latest thing that happened with RFK Jr. But there's so much. I don't know where you start. I would start with the anti-vaxxer. Afghan Resistance says, in my small opinion, the United States never should have invaded or occupied my country. They ruined all the things and made you have to leave. God damn. I mean, yeah, there's real consequences to U.S. foreign policy that are often glossed over by our media, which is very jingoistic.
But now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
So yeah, there's Trump with RFK Jr. Boring Beth says Trump really fell off after Kamala stepped up, but Kamala still feels right of center, unfortunately. Yeah, the whole Democratic Party has kind of been pushed to the right, and that's a phenomenon that's been going on since the 80s. It's a phenomenon that's actually, at this point, you can't argue that it's adaptive. You can't argue that it's helpful, right? It's eroding, the Democratic Party's chances, and it's eroding people's faith in the Democratic Party. Not that they should have faith in the Democratic Party, given how liable they've been to throw, their base under the bus, or throw different constituencies under the bus. But it has been getting worse, and the hope with Kamala. And also the hope with Biden was that maybe things might change. There has been signs of that. There have been, on the labor front with Biden, some kind of good spots, and people hope that based on Kamala's record, based on her previous statements about Gaza, that she might separate herself from Biden's failed bear hug policy with Netanyahu. But so far, we haven't seen any real indication of that. So, yeah.
That's confusing you. But the scandal that does have Trump and his people scrambling for cover today has to do with the bizarre photo op the former president did on Monday at Arlington National.
So, yeah, there's the photo op, and he's there at the gravesite giving a thumbs up.
Cemetery, in which he grinned and gave the camera a thumbs up over the grave of a Marine killed in Afghanistan. The appearance was off-putting enough by itself, but then yesterday, NPR reported that Trump campaign staff at Arlington had actually gotten into an altercation with a worker at the cemetery over their filming among the graves of the fallen. The Trump campaign's top spokesman downplayed the incident in a statement to NBC News with a sort of typically priggish, mean-spirited spin, saying, for whatever reason, an unnamed individual clearly suffering from a mental health episode decided to physically block members of President Trump's team during a very solemn ceremony. But of course, the worker had every reason, right? Arlington National Cemetery suggested as much, telling NBC News a report had been filed.
So the other thing about this is that's the ceremony, right? It's a wreath laying, and it was the anniversary of some deaths. Some of the families that had people who died on that day invited Donald Trump to be there and to place the wreath. So that part was authorized. What wasn't authorized was for Trump to walk over into a certain section of the cemetery for more photo ops, and that's where I think the thumbs up photo op was taken. And, somebody there just doing their job and saying, you can't take pictures here, right? This is a cemetery, all right? And for you to take pictures by grave sites, it's somebody's family that's buried there, right? And so they were just doing their job, apparently. And Trump's staff it may have roughed them up.
And adding in a statement,
we don't know. Again, Trump says that he's got video of it and he's threatened to release it, but so far he hasn't released anything, which makes me think that the video does not look as good as he's saying it does.
federal law prohibits political campaign or election-related activities within Army National Military Cemeteries to include photographers, content creators, or any other persons attending for purposes or in direct support of.
Jim Cantor, how naive are you? How naive are you? Do you think that Trump, his heart went out to the troops and he was there to support the family? I feel like this guy's got some golden sneakers to sell you. I gotta know, Jim, do you own any Trump NFTs? Do you own any Trump NFTs? Do you own any Trump? Have you bought any Trump steaks? Are you a graduate, perhaps, of Trump University? Because if this guy's fooled you into thinking that this is anything other than a photo op, then I got some swampland to sell you in Florida. It's right next to Mar-a-Lago, actually.
A partisan political candidate's campaign. Arlington National Cemetery reinforced and widely shared this law and its prohibitions with all participants. Trump's co-campaign manager, Chris LaCivita, told NBC News that Trump went to the cemetery to honor Gold Star families, not film a political campaign.
That's right. He was there to honor Gold Star families.
He never.
He's got so much empathy, folks. He just cares. He just cares about those Gold Star families, right? Those people that he called suckers and losers. He just cares so much about them.
And J.D. Vance today tried to play it off as some kind of media creative furor.
You're acting like Donald Trump.
So, Jim, you're acting like there's only a certain set of families. Do you know how many people are buried in Arlington? Do you know how many people are buried in Arlington? Do you think all those families invited Trump to come and take a photo in front of the gravesite of their family member? Or might you be speaking out of your ass right now, my good sir?
Trump filmed a TV commercial at a gravesite. He was there providing emotional support to a
Donald Trump. Donald Trump is my emotional support animal. I don't know what else to say, chat. I can take him anywhere. He's my emotional support, really. Donald Trump. That's who I think of when I think of emotional support, right?
A lot of brave Americans who lost loved ones they never should have lost, and there happened to be a camera there.
There just happened to be a camera there. It was just, somebody had a camera. I don't know.
Oh!
There just happened to be a camera there.
There happened to be a camera there?
There just happened to be.
How stupid do you think we are?
Well, I mean, given the way that Trump tries to con people, like, I think that he probably thinks we're all as stupid as Jim. Not that I'm calling Jim stupid or anything, but like, right, that we're all naive and that we will all believe his, transparent lies, and that we all want to buy his sneakers and we want to buy his NFT cards and all the other junk that he's hawking at us right now. Chad, have you noticed how much junk trunk? He's got junk in the Trump. No, how much junk Trump is hawking right now? How many weird, useless items he's trying to sell to his core constituency? Seems like bad timing.
He was just called to provide emotional support, a thing he does all the time away from the cameras. And oh, look at that, a camera. This was the video Trump posted, of course, to his social media that day.
We lost 13.
Okay, well, we're going to mute it. So there we go. That was the camera that just happened to be there. Okay, now this part's not true. This part's just not true. He did. People died while Trump was president, right? Trump's actions in Afghanistan were not great.
That's a campaign ad filmed in Arlington. Obvious.
Literally, that's what it is. It's a campaign ad.
Also, we didn't lose one person in 18 months. Dozens of U.S. service members died in action under Donald Trump. That's been erased. No ceremony for them, no ad, certainly. So that's Trump going to a military cemetery to film a video reminding viewers of the U.S. deaths during the withdrawal from Afghanistan, blaming his successor for them, of course, without mentioning that Trump tied Joe Biden's hands by agreeing to a withdrawal timeline set by the Taliban. But not a political ad, right? The cameraman happened to be there, as J.D. Vance said. Thing is, Trump wasn't even the only politician capitalizing off that Arlington visit. He was accompanied by Republican Utah Governor Spencer Cox, a guy you say you never vote for Trump until, of course, he endorsed him, who then used photos of the event to, get this, solicit donations in a campaign email. A violation of federal law as well, and something the governor now says was a mistake, a thing he'll say about voting for Trump in a few months, probably. Trump's team, however, is, of course, because they're Trump and his team, not admitting any mistakes. Instead, they've got J.D. Vance, the member of the Republican ticket with military experience, responding on the campaign trail.
Okay, now in the streaming business, we call this sweeping. J.D. Vance is here to sweep for Trump.
Could you tell us more about the altercation that happened at the Arlington Cemetery?
Now, it is amazing to me that you have apparently somebody at Arlington Cemetery, some staff member, had a little disagreement with somebody, and
some staff member, the disagreement was over whether they could do their job, right? Their job is to prevent people from going into the areas of the cemetery that they're not allowed, and certainly from filming in the areas of the cemetery where they're not allowed, right? You know, you can have like some families, the families, you know, involved maybe in the anniversary that was going on, the wreath laying, wanted Trump there, but there were other families that very much did not want their family members' gravesite to be part of Trump's photo op. And they said as much. And that's why this person was there doing their job, in case people don't understand, in case people are there at Arlington and they're like, hey, let's go take some pictures. And it's like, no, let's stay away from, you know, you can do it in some places, but not in others. That's the,
the media has turned this into a national news story. The families of these poor people who had their loved ones die.
It's a national news story because it's of interest when a president that defines himself as America first, you know, spits in the faces of grieving families of U.S. soldiers, right? That is why it's a news story. That is why we're still talking about it.
3 years ago at Abbey Road, Abbey Gate,
I thought that was weird. He said Abbey Road. Oh my God, he's thinking of the Beatles.
Those 13 Americans, a lot of them were there with the president. They invited him to be there and to support them. That's not an insult to the memories of their loved ones. They wanted Donald Trump there, and thank God that we have a president.
Okay, Mike's says, and I don't know if that's like a possessive Mike's. Are there multiple Mike's? I don't know, Mike's. He's also the only president of the United States that never had a war under his authority. What about Afghanistan, Mike's? What about the forever war? Are you against forever wars? It sounds like you're against wars. Sounds like you want a peace president. What about forever wars? Should those be stopped? If the United States is occupying a country that did nothing, should the troops be pulled out as soon as possible? Or should you leave them there for your entire term? Because that's what Trump did. He was too much of a coward to do the right thing and to pull out because he didn't want, you know, to have, it's going to be messy, right? When you go into a country and you put in a puppet government, right? That's like if somebody invaded the United States and they took out the, you know, president and Congress and everyone, and they just like named somebody. They were like, you know, here's Justin Trudeau. He's going to be your president from now on. And you're like, that's not our president. We didn't vote for him. What the fuck? You know, Canada, what are you doing to us, Canada? Right? I mean, it's absurd when I try to put it in a way that Americans can understand, because Americans do not have to worry about invasion from the northern border or the southern border or anything like that. The U.S. is somewhat of a global hegemon. And because of that, does not experience what the rest of the world experiences when the United States foreign policy targets them, right? And you could say that George W. Bush got us into that, but you can't say that Donald Trump got us out of that, all right? And you can't say that Donald Trump didn't engage in acts of war while he was president, acts of war that could have gotten us into war, right? When you assassinate a military official of another country, that's a pretty good way to start a war. And it's lucky that that didn't happen. When you pull out of treaties, right, nuclear treaties, which require countries like Iran to be transparent in terms of their processing of nuclear fuel and ensure that they're not turning it into nuclear weapons, and then somebody like Donald Trump just comes along and blows that all up, ruins that fucking deal. I don't know what you call that, but I don't call that an action taken in the pursuance of peace. I think that's the opposite. I think Donald Trump wanted a war with Iran, just like George W. Bush. Remember Bush invades Afghanistan. Okay, Bin Laden's been in Afghanistan, so does it kind of make sense? I mean, probably not if you're in Afghanistan. Probably if you live there, it doesn't make a lot of sense, right? But they invade Afghanistan. Then he makes up lies about Saddam Hussein, so he invades Iraq. What else does he have on Axis of Evils, right? Remember George W. Bush's Axis of Evils? It was Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, North Korea. Iran was next on that list. And Bush tried to start a war with Iran. He was not successful because starting a war after you've started two disastrous wars is not as easy as it might look. But Donald Trump was trying to complete what George Bush failed to do. Donald Trump picked up where George W. Bush... Let that sink in for a second, all right? Because it feels like you're not looking at Republican candidates with enough scrutiny and that you're taking their word for it. And with somebody like Trump, who's been a con man his whole life, who's lied, literally made money lying to people his whole life, you probably shouldn't take their word for anything. You should probably be really skeptical about everything that they say.
President who stands with our veterans instead of one who runs away from them.
Here we go again. Runs away from our veterans. Who ran away from the Vietnam War? Who faked bone spurs to get out of the Vietnam War? Who let poor people go to Vietnam and die in his place? It was Donald Trump. You want to talk about running away from soldiers? Donald Trump ran away from service.
Okay, this is important, honestly, on this. It is true, Trump was invited. He was invited by some of those family members who Trump has been talking to, right? But this is a really important point. He was not invited by all the families of all the 400,000 veterans and dependents that are buried at Arlington, who did not and cannot consent to be used as props and a backdrop by a few other bereaved families for this individual. That's why the prohibition exists. It's a complete prohibition. It doesn't matter if he was invited. And beyond Vance disparaging someone who works at Arlington National Cemetery for enforcing the rules, is Donald Trump really a president who stands with our veterans instead of one who runs away from them? Really? Donald, I don't like losers. I like people that weren't captured. Trump, the Donald Trump who spent so much of his first presidential campaign attacking the...
And look, if he had been a conscientious objector who refused to go to Vietnam out of his deeply held belief that the United States was engaging in war crimes, that would have been one thing. But that's not who Donald Trump is. That's not ever who Donald Trump has been.
Parents, do you remember this one of an American Army officer who died in Iraq in 2004? The Donald Trump who, as president, fumbled the name of a fallen soldier in a condolence call to his widow, then bickered with her and then knocked her in interviews? The Donald Trump who, according to his chief of staff, his own chief of staff, a retired four-star Marine general, refused to pay his respects at a veterans cemetery in Europe, saying, "Why should I go to that cemetery? It's filled with losers." And who, on that same trip, called the more than 1,800 Marines who died at Belleau Wood suckers for getting killed? Or was it the Donald Trump who reportedly hated being filmed or photographed?
Yo, Omega Star, thank you for the throne contribution.
For wounded veterans. At Army General Mark Milley's welcoming ceremony as chairman of the Joint Chiefs in 2019. The general chosen a combat wounded soldier, Luis Avila, to sing God Bless America at the ceremony. You can see Avila there in the wheelchair. Milley said afterward the president told him, "Why do you bring people like that here? No one wants to see that, the wounded." And if you think, well, all that's in the past, it was just less than 2 weeks ago when Donald Trump used war-wearied American service members as a kind of punchline about how rough they all look in order to talk up one of his biggest political donors.
I have to say, Miriam, I watched Sheldon sitting so proud in the White House when we gave Miriam the Presidential Medal of Freedom. That's the highest award you can get as a civilian. It's the equivalent of the Congressional Medal of Honor, but civilian version. It's actually much better because everyone gets the Congressional Medal of Honor. That's soldiers. They're either in very bad shape because they've been hit so many times by bullets, or they're dead. She gets it, and she's a healthy, beautiful woman. It's right.
This is a donor. And this is actually not just any donor. This is, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is like what, the wife of Sheldon Adelson and the inheritor of his estate?
Congressional Medal of Honor. House when
how rough they all look in order to talk up one of his biggest political donors.
I really, I have to say, Miriam, I watched Sheldon sitting so proud.
Yeah, Miriam Adelson.
In the White House when we gave Miriam the Presidential Medal of Freedom. That's the highest award you can get as a civilian. It's the equivalent of the...
And again, Chad, I want to be careful not to, imply any sort of quid pro quo in terms of Miriam Adelson's donations to Donald Trump's campaign and the policies that he enacted. But there were policies that she backed, including blowing up the Iran deal that Donald Trump undertook. So again, not alleging any sort of quid pro quo, but it does look sus. It does look sus. And what's more sus is that now she gets a Medal of Honor. He's paying back a political donor with a Medal of Honor?
Congressional Medal of Honor, but civilian version. It's actually...
This is the most gross kind of transactional bullshit you could imagine.
Much better because everyone gets the Congressional Medal of Honor. That's soldiers. They're either in very bad...
Wait, everyone who gets it, he means...
...shape because they've been hit so many times by bullets, or they're dead. She gets it, and she's a healthy, beautiful woman. It's right.
So he's pointing out that this is not a normal person to award this medal.
See, they don't have any of those ugly scars or wounds or bullet marks. She's beautiful, right? Isn't that awesome? Isn't that the highest that one could hope for? You could be forgiven for looking at all this and thinking that Trump only has respect for the most revered American institutions, the military, the justice system, free elections, when they're working for him.
All right, so we got to watch what J.D. Vance said about this. I can get it to...
It is amazing to me that you have apparently somebody at Arlington Cemetery, some staff member, had a little disagreement with somebody.
I mean, clearly a member of the deep state. Am I right, J.D. Vance? Am I right? They're probably part of the Comet Pizzeria gang. They're probably in the deep state. You know, the deep state where they...
And they have turned, the media has...
Where they order pizza.
...turned this into a national news story. You know what I think our veterans care a lot more about? That Kamala Harris's...
QAnon conspiracy theories? What are you going to say?
...nominee lied about his military service. I think that our veterans...
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. So they care about a vice presidential candidate's military service, you say? Interesting that. What about a presidential candidate's military service or lack thereof? What about a presidential candidate who was up for the draft and mysteriously had bone spurs that kept him from going to war, and somebody poorer than him had to go in his place? What about that? So this is the thing. This attack line is already sort of poison-pilled for the Republicans, right? They bring up Tim Walz and the questions about like what his rank was when he retired, or any of that shit, or whether he knew that his National Guard unit was going to be deployed to Iraq, which it shouldn't. It's a National Guard unit. And that was a highly irregular order from then President George W. Bush. All these speculations that they've got about Tim Walz and his military service, right? Military service that caused him to lose his hearing, to go deaf from, firing artillery. But no, tell me more, J.D. Vance. Tell me more.
Care a lot more about that. And the other thing our veterans care a lot more about is that 3 years ago, 13 brave, innocent Americans died and they died because Kamala Harris refused to do her job, and there hasn't been a...
That's so wild. It's so wild. You're going to try to pin that on the vice president. He's just mixed up, right? Like, I mean, maybe because he's the vice president. And Trump said that when asked about how badly J.D. Vance was hurting his ticket, Trump's response was something like that vice presidential candidates don't really matter. And it's true. Vice presidents, let's put it this way, vice presidential candidates do matter, right? They can help a ticket win a state that they're from, or a state where they're well liked, or campaign in certain places where they might be more effective than the presidential candidates. So they do matter as a candidate. They don't really matter as much as an actual elected official, because the duty of a vice president is generally to break a tie that might happen in the Senate. So if the Senate ties 50-50, the vice president comes in there, breaks the tie. That's their official duty. Anything else they do is kind of going to be a task assigned to them by the president. So in terms of decisive influence on the foreign policy, which is what he's suggesting Kamala Harris had, he's full of shit. You think that Mike Pence had decisive influence over President Trump trying to remain in office after he lost? Obviously not.
Single investigation or a single firing. I don't look, sometimes mistakes.
Sometimes you gotta find somebody and fucking use them as a scapegoat, right? For failed US policy, for an invasion of a sovereign nation that never should have happened, for an invasion that remained in place for like 20 years because none of these fucking gutless presidents had the gall to actually pull the troops out of there, right?
Mistakes happen. That's just the nature of government, the nature of military service. But to have those 13 Americans lose their lives and not fire a single person is disgraceful.
To fire a underling for your own country's mistake, that sounds very Trumpian. It sounds like The Apprentice. It's fucking meaningless. You're just hurting somebody whose fault it is not for no fucking reason at all.
Kamala Harris is disgraceful. We're going to talk about a story out of those 13 brave, innocent Americans who lost their lives. It's that Kamala Harris is so asleep at the wheel that she won't even do an investigation into what happened, and she wants to yell at Donald Trump because he showed up. She can go to hell.
So he's about to say "kiss my ass," but people are reacting to this. She can go to hell thing, right? It's not impressing. It's not impressing anyone. So yeah, shit is going really, really bad for Trump and for Vance.
Donald Trump has been getting a lot of bad press on his Arlington stunt that he did on Monday, and J.D. Vance decided that he wanted in on that action. Because J.D. Vance tried to defend Donald Trump for this, but he only made things a whole lot worse. Now we'll go through what J.D. Vance said in a second, but first, I wanted to cover an MSNBC article that touches on a few new details that have not been previously covered. So let's take a look at this article. For Trump, Arlington National Cemetery controversy goes from bad to worse. As the week got underway, Donald Trump probably thought going to Arlington National Cemetery would be a good idea. The former president, despite his awful record related to respecting US troops and veterans, appeared eager on Monday to exploit the 3rd anniversary of a terrorist attack in Afghanistan that killed 13 US service members and more than 150 Afghans. As a result, the Republican nominee attended a wreath-laying ceremony at the tomb of the unknown soldier, which was quickly followed by a thumbs-up photo op at a gravestone in Section 60 of the cemetery, where many service members killed in Afghanistan and Iraq are buried. At that point, the story was already problematic. On Tuesday, however, the matter took a turn for the worst amid reports of an incident involving Trump aides and someone who worked at the cemetery. A day later, the controversy continued to intensify. NBC News reported, quote, former President Donald Trump's campaign is playing down reports of an altercation during his visit to Arlington National Cemetery on Monday, a move that signals its concern about potential political fallout from the incident. Republicans might have hoped that this scandal would be a one-day story, but I have some bad news for them. It's a story with a surprising number of moving parts, so let's summarize where things stand. Two defense officials told NBC News that a member of Trump's team pushed an employee at the cemetery as part of the effort to take photographs at Section 60. The same NBC News report added that military police were called and wrote up an incident report, which has not been made public. The Trump campaign has denied reports of physical altercation. A woman who works at the cemetery and
so yeah, that's the question, right? The discrepancy between the reports of the people working at the cemetery in Arlington and between the president's staff who claimed that there was not a physical altercation. Now they've said that they've got video footage or photos or some kind of proof that it didn't happen, but they haven't released it yet, which makes it seem like maybe they don't actually have that proof.
An incident report has declined to press charges, the New York Times reported on Wednesday, citing military officials. According to the report, which has not been independently verified by MSNBC or NBC News, the woman feared retaliation from Trump's followers. You know, the same followers who were threatening to hang Mike Pence? So it's no wonder why she didn't want to press charges and make herself known to the public. The same Times report highlighted concerns for one family whose loved one served 8 combat tours and is buried at Arlington that believes the Trump campaign filmed his gravesite without permission. The Associated Press reported, citing a defense official, that the Trump campaign received warnings about not taking photographs in Section 60. If that report is accurate, the Republican operation did not heed those warnings. Mark Esper, who served as Trump's defense secretary, called for an investigation into the incident. Similarly, Democratic Representative Jerry Connolly of Virginia issued a written statement calling for the release of documents related to Monday's incident. USA Today published a report on veterans who were not pleased with Trump's actions. The article quoted retired Major General Paul Eaton, a senior advisor at Vote Vets, who called the campaign's actions at the cemetery nauseating and...
And the thing about it is that it's not just the actions at the cemetery, it's part of a larger pattern of Donald Trump using members of the U.S. military for his own political gain, and saying, really awful things about them when he thinks he's not being heard. Yeah, I mean, like there's an incident with like Gold Star families going back to 2016, right? This has been an issue for Trump for a long time. And at this point, when Trump is hanging his hat on America First, which also corresponds to a fascist movement. But no, I'm sure there's no relation. I'm sure that he's just really thinking of America here, right? That's the only reason he says America First. But when he tries to use that as his branding, right? That he's this kind of super patriot, and he's revealed, and the more that this stuff comes up, the more people are hearing about his own dishonorable actions to get himself out of the mandatory service, the draft that was in place during his while he was young, and that he seems to have escaped because of his wealth and privilege, right? It all sort of brings it back home, and it undermines his core value proposition, to say, I am for America, I am for Americans, right? He's for Trump, and Trump only. It's Trump first.
Repugnant. As feared, Team Trump has already released a campaign video featuring footage of the GOP candidate's visit to Arlington.
Okay, so that was not the video that I was talking about, but yeah, that was the TikTok. We saw a little bit of that, the wreath laying and everything like that. The video that they're threatening to release is the video that shows the confrontation with the employees at Arlington Cemetery that people are describing as a physical altercation. Of course, Trump's team denies that. And they say that they've got video footage or they've got some kind of, photo documentary proof to show that it didn't happen, but they haven't released it, which makes it sound like that's just more bullshit. That's just more bullshit from Team Trump.
And this will be important later, so hold that in the back of your mind for a sec. Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance said that Vice President Kamala Harris can go to hell for criticizing Trump's cemetery appearance, despite the fact that Harris hasn't actually made any such criticism.
That's wild. Dude is on autopilot.
Now, it may seem like this is what we're going to be talking about today with J.D. Vance defending Donald Trump. Except this is not actually the main thing that we're going to cover today. Because this is not even the worst thing that J.D. Vance said. So let's go ahead and take a look at
Okay, now wait, I might not even know what this next part is.
J.D. Vance said as he tried to defend Donald Trump.
You guys in the media, you're acting like Donald Trump filmed a TV commercial at a grave
It's almost like he filmed a TV commercial at a gravesite.
He was there.
No, it wasn't. He didn't film a TV commercial. Come on, it was a TikTok. Come on.
They're providing emotional support to a lot of brave Americans who lost loved ones they never should have lost, and there happened to be a camera there, and somebody gave...
Look, the closest thing that Trump has ever done to providing emotional support is selling Trumpy bears. Actually, I don't even think it was him that was selling the Trumpy bears. Do y'all remember the Trumpy bears? We covered this a few nights ago, right? There was a Trumpy trout and the Trumpy bears. Like the closest thing to emotional support that Trump has ever provided is being the inspiration for Trumpy bear.
Permission to have that camera there.
So JD Vance is trying to say that it's not like they made a commercial out of it or anything, right? Except for the fact that they literally did. Take a look at this TikTok ad that they made using the footage.
Here, before we do that, let's take a look.
A storm is coming. You cannot defeat the storm. From the trees rose a resounding voice. I fear nothing.
Cocaine bear. No, it's Donald Trump. It's Donald Trump, of course. It's Trumpy bear.
The original Trumpy bear. Golf course.
When I ride with Trumpy Bear, he makes my golf game great again. Thank you, Trumpy Bear.
Thank you, Trumpy bear. Yeah, that's the closest thing to emotional support Donald Trump has ever provided.
President.
We lost 13 great people.
Mute. But chat, remember, it's not a campaign commercial. It's just going out on TikTok under the real Donald Trump account. It's just going out on Donald Trump's official TikTok account, but it's not a campaign commercial. They just happen to have a camera there.
They very clearly did make a commercial out of this stunt. So yeah, this is absolutely disgusting behavior from both Trump and JD Vance. It is unbelievable that JD Vance would try to downplay and defend Trump's actions, especially how pro-veteran he's been trying to be recently. And JD Vance was also just plain wrong. He claimed that Trump was given permission to film and do everything that he did. And sure, maybe he was allowed and given permission to film in very specific areas, but he was warned.
Yeah, so the wreath laying, right? That was the event that had to do with the Gold Star families that actually wanted Trump there, right? The rest of it, where he goes out to, random places in the cemetery and takes, photo ops, that he was not authorized to be there.
Multiple times to not film or not take photos or not do anything in Section 60. And as we saw earlier, a lot of workers were just scared of retaliation from Trump's base if they were to go up and try to stop him or something. So just because you weren't asked to stop filming or stop taking pictures does not mean that you're allowed to do it. Plus, other families at the gravesite did not give him permission to film and take pictures, so overall, this was just a complete lie from JD Vance.
That's the whole thing. If you have relatives that are buried in that cemetery, you at the very least have the right to not have your relative's gravesite in a promotional picture for the Donald Trump campaign if you don't want to.
So what this all tells me is that JD Vance clearly doesn't care for veterans or even his own image. Because if he did, he would have said, yeah, Trump messed up, but it wasn't.
No, yeah, JD Vance is all about stolen valor and stolen holler. He's a fake hillbilly.
Honest mistake. And JD Vance would have played it to be like he was
with eyeliner
trying to do the right thing, but the execution just maybe didn't land correctly. That would have saved him a lot of bad press. Maybe not completely, but at least not as bad as he's getting right now. Because him just outright defending Trump is clearly undefendable. So, in my opinion, JD Vance deserves all of the hate that is coming his way.
And he will get it. He will receive that hate. All right, let's take a look here. We've got some more footage. We got some more coverage of this incident at Arlington.
You're reporting this hour on new reaction to that TikTok we just showed. Tell us more about what you're learning.
Right. So, Pam, my colleagues and I have reporting from another family. It has a soldier buried in that section 60, which is a very restricted section. It is for people, for soldiers who died after serving in Iraq and Afghanistan for the most part. This is a family who the soldier in question, he was a master sergeant, Andrew Marcasano. He died by suicide in 2020, and he had served multiple tours, combat tours, including in Afghanistan, but not only. And his gravesite was caught in pictures as Trump was posing with the gravesite of another sergeant at the same section. Now, that other sergeant's family had indeed said they would like Trump there, as you noted, these Gold Star families.
Talon says it's public. You don't need permission. Talon, obviously you don't have family buried there. I would love to see how you would react if I said that your family's gravesite of a family member of yours was public, and I went over and took pictures, did a TikTok on your relative's grave. Yeah, are you starting to understand this? You're wrong. You're wrong. Section 60 is not fucking public. But I mean, I don't know what kind of diarrhea comes out of the mouth of Trump diehards.
Families welcomed him. As you also noted, the rules of the cemetery are that campaign photography, campaign filming is not permitted, photographs that are going to be used for election purposes. And the Marcasano family certainly was not contacted or asked for this, but his gravestone is now in that TikTok video from behind that Trump posted on TikTok. He's also, the front of the gravesite with his name is in pictures that were posted online with Trump posing with a thumbs up. And, they were very clear, the family, in a statement to us, that they really support this other family and other families that lost people in the Abbey Gate bombing in Kabul in Afghanistan, but that this is a restricted area and that they would hope that everyone would be respectful of that. It was a restrained statement, but it was very clearly displeased.
Yeah. And what is the Trump campaign saying to this family, to your reporting?
When we asked them to respond, they would not directly address what the family said. When asked about the TikTok video, they wouldn't address whether they would continue using the gravestone images, just saying something to the effect of, we continue to honor the wishes of the Gold Star families.
They got their photo up and they're going to use it. That's what they're thinking.
Supported him, former President Trump, being there, which again, their families are not a monolith when it comes to military families, when it comes to families connected to any tragedy.
Yeah, and there's some Trumpies out there trying to use the fact that there were families that wanted Trump there that are Trump sycophants. I mean, it's not to really speak to how their dead relatives might feel about the guy that didn't pull them out of Afghanistan, but the families at least have given permission, right? But that doesn't mean that every family with a soldier buried there is giving permission as well. And in fact, some of them are really against it.
People don't see things the same. The broader issue here is there is a federal law in place, and so far the Trump campaign has yet to provide documentation of its claim that it was permitted to do this, and there was an agreement.
Right, because Trump's team is suggesting that they actually have video to prove what they say happened. Right. Why not release it?
I'd like them to. I hope they would release it. They should release it. They have videos suggesting this shows that the confrontation is not as described. They've claimed that they had permission to be there. There is nothing to support that. I want to add one other note, Pam, that was important from our story tonight, which is that we had reporting that the official in question at Arlington Cemetery, she had filed a report, but then she declined to press charges, and military officials said that she was afraid that she was going to be retaliated against by Trump supporters. It's worth noting that the Trump campaign targeted her, suggesting she was having a mental health episode.
Tlon, can you help me out? Who was the president before Biden? I seem to be forgetting. Anybody want to help me out with this, Tlon? Who was president before Biden? How long was the occupation of Afghanistan? When should troops have been removed? Like, this would be one thing if Trump didn't have a chance to pull out of Afghanistan. But because he did, and he didn't do it, because he's all about himself. He wants to be able to say that we did not pull out of Afghanistan under my presidency, right? This is all about Trump. This is all about his fucking ego. Are you really going to let yourself be subsumed by that ego? Because the Republican Party's going down the shitter. Thanks to people like you, mindless fucking zombies that just come on Trump. It's fucking scary. It's fucking scary. Like, look, if I'm going to be honest, like, right, Biden needed to withdraw for the good of the Democratic Party, right? He had very little chance of winning the election, and he had no business running for president another time, right? But Trump should also withdraw. Should also withdraw because he is unable to run his campaign as well. He's unable to do the job as a presidential candidate. And the Republican Party is going to go down the shitter along with him, right? If he cared about the Republican Party, if he cared about MAGA, if he cared about any of the fucking, policy that he pretends that he stands for, he would withdraw and let somebody else do it, but he's not going to, because he knows that being president is the only chance he has of avoiding culpability for the charges that are chasing him. It's the only way that he can reliably, stay out of jail or, ankle bracelet status or whatever kind of, penalty would be imposed on him when one of these charges actually comes down the line that's a little bit more serious than the 34 charges he's already been convicted of, right? Trump is running for president again for Trump and Trump only. It is so important to me that you understand this, chatters. It is so important that you understand what this man's motivation is, what this man's motivation always has been. It's been for Trump and Trump alone. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about any Gold Star families. He doesn't care about the country. He cares about himself. This is all about him, and you're being fucking used by him.
Boy, I got to get reelected. That's so much more important than actually dealing with an insurrection on the Capitol, which unfortunately a lot of my colleagues now say.
I do want to ask you about something that happened at Arlington National Cemetery. Donald Trump went there to honor the families of those soldiers who were killed in the Afghanistan withdrawal, a noble reason to be there. But then there turned out to be some sort of altercation, some sort of issue with the folks at the cemetery, the workers there, and Donald Trump's campaign team, the campaign saying that they were trying to stop them. It had to do with cameras because, of course, there's this federal law in place that says you cannot use this cemetery as a campaign event, a place to take video and then use it in your campaign. What do you think of all of this? And are you surprised that this sort of thing happened at such a solemn moment?
No, I'm not surprised anymore. I'm not. I mean, this is Donald Trump. I mean, I don't want to be gratuitous here, but how many times every week there's a new story about him disrespecting a veteran? He would see if I went to Arlington National Cemetery, I would be there very solemnly. I guarantee you, I think we've known him long enough to say, I guarantee you, he was thinking about what does this mean for me politically? So he went there.
OnlyFacts says relatives don't supersede military rules. Yeah, and in this case, look, when he was laying the wreath, okay, he had, the permission, he had the approval of the military families, or some of the military families for whom the wreath was being laid. They wanted him there, right? Who didn't want him there was people that were buried in Section 60. And they got their relatives' fucking gravestone, their relatives' last resting place in his promo shots, in his photo ops, right? That's what we're talking about here.
He wanted to get his video and pictures. People that worked there at Arlington did the right thing, which is to try to stop it from happening, because this is disrespect.
They literally just did their job, right? Their job is to say when somebody comes over with a camera to that section of Arlington, you need to leave. You can't have that. You can't take pictures of here. You can't do this, right? That's their job. They were doing their job. And now they're under threat of being attacked by MAGA zombies like Tlon.
The memory of those that have fallen.
Speaking of those who have fallen, Tlon, we salute you.
Of course, their team, who doesn't also care, gets into it.
We salute your brave sacrifice for Daddy Trump.
I mean, look, how many times did he use the White House as a background for political events, which up to that point was not allowed? But of course, when he's the president, he can change that. Look, to all Americans, regardless, if you think that, we should be having every campaign now stopping, and every congressional campaign and every Senate campaign going and doing campaign rallies, in essence, at Arlington National Cemetery, that's fine. I don't think the vast majority of Americans agree with you. And this is, again, it's just par for the course with Donald Trump, and I can't wait till we never talk about him again.
Adam Kinzinger, thank you so much. Appreciate
You won't have to wait that long. 69 days, chat.
coming on this morning.
Person at the cemetery who confronted them about not being allowed to film there didn't put a complaint in because she's afraid of retaliation, of attacks.
How fucked up is it that stochastic terrorism behind one candidate, behind one presidential candidate, is so bad that people are afraid to press charges? How bad is it that he's intimidated poll workers, right? When will his reign of terror end? He's not even president anymore, but people are afraid of his fucking unhinged followers.
Did a number of these events at Arlington National Cemetery with Vice President Pence, and there's a process you go through. There's protocol. You work with Arlington National Cemetery. You work with officials from the Pentagon, and there are very strict rules of where.
Yeah, so right there, Green Beret family, that family of a fallen Green Beret, says that Trump filmed the gravesite of their dead relative without permission. So anybody that's like that hasn't like clicked for, like, notice this, right? That's what we're talking about, right? There were people that wanted him there for the wreath laying. The wreath laying wasn't enough. He wanted a photo op by a gravesite, right? And that's where, the gravesite of somebody that didn't want to have anything to do with Trump, somebody whose family did not want to have anything to do with Trump, was filmed.
You need certain permissions, and photography is only allowed in certain places. The distinction here is this is a campaign event. He is not the sitting president. It's not the sitting vice president, because people are saying, well, other political figures have done events.
Let me try to put this in perspective historically for everybody. Okay. So, there's something called a core brand proposition, and I think it's like advertising talk. I think that's where that comes from. I probably know that because I'm a YouTuber and I have to think about things like that. But a core brand proposition is like the identity of a brand, right? If you're Apple, what is your core brand proposition? Think differently, right? You're creative. You're selling. I mean, I guess I'm talking about Apple from the early 2000s, right? But it's marketed to people who create things, people who film things, who edit things, who do music, who do right. So think differently is the core brand proposition. If there was something about Apple that undermined that, they'd be in big trouble. If people started to think, actually, Apple's not thinking differently, right? Then that core brand proposition would be undermined. This holds true with a presidential candidate too, and Trump's core brand proposition essentially, is America first. And that has some really ugly historical precedents. That has some connections to fascism, even modern day fascism. The Nick Fuentes movement calls itself America first. But, essentially, if you're going to take it, if you're going to assume that it's not a fascist dog whistle from Trump to associate him with America first, then his core brand proposition is he cares about the United States first and foremost. Before anything else in the world, he cares about the United States, right? And for him to ignore the wishes of families of fallen soldiers and to make their gravestones part of his fucking campaign propaganda, well, that's not very American first. This is what the danger is here for Donald Trump, right? Let's take us back to 2004. I always like to talk about other elections, compare them to now, right? You've got a candidate named John Kerry. John Kerry was selected as the candidate for the Democratic Party in a lot of ways because he had been a veteran from Vietnam, right? So his core brand proposition was, I have fought and I have served, and I want to kind of bring an end to this conflict, right? Just like the Vietnam War needed to be ended, this war needs to be ended, and I'm the person to do it with honor, right? That's what John Kerry was selling himself as, right? So along comes this campaign, along comes this PAC called Swift Boat Veterans for Truth. And they were able to dig up some veterans who had served at roughly the same time as John Kerry. And they came out and they questioned his service. They questioned like his actions in the Vietnam War. So his core brand proposition, I am an honorable soldier, gets undermined, and John Kerry loses that election, right? The very similar thing that's happening to Donald Trump right now. Although I will say it's different in one way. I feel like the Swiftboat Veterans for Truth PAC was pretty astroturfed. There's no PAC coming after Donald Trump here, right? There's no like families of veterans for, you know, truth or something like that, like putting out ads, at least not right now, to go after Donald Trump. This is a self-inflicted wound by Donald Trump on his own campaign. His own narcissism, his own ego, his own lack of compassion is actually biting him in the ass here. So that's how it's different than 2004, but you can kind of see how it's the same, how it's similar to 2004 by the fact that you've got a candidate whose core brand proposition is being undermined.
There. He's doing it in a purely campaign capacity. It was deeply inappropriate. A professional team would have known that. And by the way, he was actually highlighting something that I think is an important argument for him, which is Biden's withdrawal from Afghanistan and the loss of 13.
Let's shift gears here. And we've been talking about the controversy surrounding.
Yeah, that cut off in the wrong place. But yeah, I mean, like he was trying to go after Biden in that. I mean, that shows you just how much of a photo op that really is. That shows you exactly how much of a photo op is actually going on here. That the point of Trump showing up to do that wreath laying wasn't to provide emotional support, as JD Vance said, but rather to undermine Harris's campaign by blaming the withdrawal, which should have happened a long time ago, right? The U.S. should have never been in Afghanistan in the first place, but the withdrawal finally happened under Biden after Trump failed to do it, after the United States had been in Afghanistan for like 20 years, right? And so Trump is showing up there not to give emotional support, but to go after his political enemies, right? That's not a good look, Donald.
Trump's visit to Arlington National Cemetery this week. It's become a real campaign flashpoint. And Charlie, you have a new piece for The Atlantic with the title, Trump Dishonors Fallen Soldiers Again. And in it, you write in part this. On Monday, Donald Trump visited the sacred ground of Arlington National Cemetery, where many of America's war dead are buried, and he posed for photos. In the strangest of these pictures, the former president is smiling and giving a thumbs up by the grave of a Marine. It's an image of a man who has no idea how to behave around fallen heroes. The event was supposed to be respectful and private. According to a press pool note, the families of the troops had asked that there be no media coverage in the area where the service members were buried, but Trump seemed to have other ideas. It's hard to see Trump's visit as anything but a campaign stop intended to court the military vote. By now, Trump's use of the military.
I mean, like I said, I can see it also as an attack on Biden and Harris, right? That's
as a prop for his own ends should surprise no one. Despite his vigorous avoidance of military service, Trump has a long history of denigrating the service of others, even as he poses as a defender of the nation's military. Monday's wreath laying at Arlington was, in part, Trump's attempt to clean up the mess he has created and to establish some credibility as a champion of men and women at arms. But in the end, it merely served to remind Americans how little he understands about service, sacrifice, and heroism.
Now, look, obviously there's a lot of jingoism wrapped up in this, in the, discussion of the troops and the, veterans and all this stuff. And, but the point remains, Donald Trump is opportunist in a really gross way.
Charlie, let's get you to expand upon that. We were ticking through earlier in the show the long list of times where Donald Trump has indeed denigrated the service of others, including those who have given their lives for the country. And as you see it, he did it again this week.
Well, this is the great paradox of Donald Trump. You know, his own record of non-service is of course well documented, but so is this long record of denigrating the service of others and his contempt, and yet he continues to wrap himself as the champion of the military, and many veterans seem to think that he is.
And look, if he was the president of peace, like a lot of MAGAs seem to want to say he is. I mean, I'm sure it's not in a peaceful way, like, you know, respecting the autonomy of other peoples and other countries. I'm sure it's in a sense of isolationism. But if he really was the president of peace, it wouldn't be like these people are losers and these people are suckers. It would be these people got fucked over. You know, but I mean, like some of the dead that he's talking about, like, right, some of the places that he said stuff like losers and suckers is when he goes to like World War II grave sites. In which case, you know, it's kind of hard to argue that the German forces should not have been opposed.
That he is an ally of the military, but you walk through.
So yeah, there's no sense of it's not about peace. It's not about being anti-war, right? It's about the fact that Donald Trump is a coward who had other people die in his place.
You look at this picture that you're showing right now. I mean, there's something deeply unnatural about this. Who posing with a thumbs up in front of the grave of a fallen soldier? Who does that? Somebody who, frankly, just does not understand what the sacrifice means. And you go back through whether it's the attack on John McCain for being a POW, or his suggestion at one point that he did not want disabled veterans to be an independent.
Afghan Resistance says, so Trump never was a soldier, but only cares about soldier who's dead when he gets more publicity. Yeah, exactly.
Day military parade because it would make him look bad.
Lady Badash says Trump has a weak pullout game. Yes.
Or his comments to his former chief of staff, retired General John Kelly, when they went to Arlington in 2017, and they're standing next to John Kelly's son, Robert, who was a lieutenant who was killed in Afghanistan, and Donald Trump said to General Kelly, "I don't understand why they do this. What's in it for them?" Or when he refused to go to the military cemetery in France, calling them losers and suckers. And, you know, for people who've been around Donald Trump, this continues to be shocking that someone who is the commander in chief just does not seem at some core of his.
I mean, imagine being John Kelly, having to listen to this guy glaze up Hitler, glaze up the Nazis that Trump thought were, Trump thought of the Nazis as being very loyal to Hitler and admired that for some reason. And Kelly's literally having to remind you, yo, Trump, it's Hitler we're talking about. We're talking about Hitler, right? Like, but I mean, this is the guy who supposedly had a copy of Mein Kampf by his bedside.
Being does not seem to understand why people give their lives for their country. And again, you want to talk about cognitive dissonance. This is a man who, wants to be thought of as America first, USA, the defender of American strength. And yet when it comes down to it, time and again, whether it's Gold Star families, whether it's Medal of Honor winners, there's...
Wait, he said that shit over the grave of General Kelly's son?
Something broken in Donald Trump.
Yeah, Donald Trump. Those Nazis really followed orders.
That makes it impossible for
and the funny thing is that he doesn't get that some of the attempts on Hitler's life actually came from his inner circle. So he's even wrong about like the loyalty thing. But besides, I mean, that's the smaller point besides the fact that you got Trump over here admiring fascists, admiring dictators. That is what he does.
Understand that kind of sacrifice and heroism.
So folks, this just...
Okay, so we got a few more videos of this, and then we're going to move on. Like I said, chat, we got some major drama, some major updates, some major happenings in the world of streamer drama that we're going to get to in just a little bit. But I wanted to catch up on some news since we've been a few days without the news, and just see kind of what people are saying about Trump and Arlington Cemetery.
Brand new reporting from the New York Times tonight. The family of a Green Beret who's buried at Arlington National Cemetery is not happy about Donald Trump's photo op near his gravesite. Maggie Haberman joins us in just a moment. The Trump campaign is defending its decision to film in a restricted section of the cemetery where soldiers who were recently killed are buried.
Okay, so that was the part. Somebody in chat mentioned this earlier, and I didn't want to repeat it without knowing it for sure. But yeah, this is the news is saying this too. That the issue with some of the footage, some of the pictures, some of the photo ops is that like these were like freshly buried soldiers, right? It's not just that like, you know, that's the final resting place of somebody's brother, somebody's father, somebody's uncle, somebody's whatever, right? It's that, it's that, you know, some of those, they had just buried their dead.
At Arlington tried to stop Trump's team from doing so on Monday, but was then verbally abused and pushed by Trump campaign staff, according to reporting. VP candidate J.D. Vance, though, is blaming the media.
It is amazing to me that you have apparently somebody at Arlington Cemetery, some staff member, had a little disagreement with somebody, and the media has turned this into a national news story.
Trump's spokesman is blaming the cemetery official, claiming that they tried to physically.
Okay, so Steel Magnolia says it's been proven that the losers and suckers comment was never made by President Trump. How was it proven? That's a wild thing to say. That's a wild thing to say. Look, if I was to say that it's proven that Steel Magnolia has never said, you know, I don't see what's wrong with JD Vance, you know, effing a couch, I would do it too. Then, you know, could you disprove that? No, that's a silly thing to say. That's a silly thing to say. You might, if I think maybe what you're trying to say is that General Kelly was lying, but I don't know what proof you have of that. It was confirmed to have been said by Biden. And oh my God, Biden said that. Biden called the troops losers and suckers. Right. You're so full of shit, Steel Magnolia. You're so full of shit.
Block campaign staff. We should note that federal law prohibits any campaign or election-related activities within Army National Military cemeteries, which is notable because the Trump campaign posted this video on TikTok promoting his visit to the cemetery.
And again, he's lying about not losing anyone in 18 months.
It is New York Times senior political correspondent Maggie Haberman. So Maggie, you're reporting this hour on new reaction to that TikTok we just showed. Tell us more about what you're learning.
Right. So, Pam, my colleagues and I have reporting from another family that has a soldier buried.
Again, this is not exactly one of my favorite journalists, Maggie Haberman. Not a fan.
In that section 60, which is a very restricted section, it is for soldiers who died after serving in Iraq and Afghanistan for the most part. This is a family who the soldier in question, he was a master sergeant, Andrew Marcasano. He died by suicide in 2020, and he had served multiple tours, combat tours, including in Afghanistan, but not only. And his gravesite was caught in pictures as Trump was posing with the gravesite of another sergeant at the same section. Now, that other sergeant's family had indeed said they would like Trump there. As you noted, these Gold Star families welcomed him. As you also noted, the rules of the cemetery are that campaign photography, campaign filming is not permitted, photographs that are going to be used for election purposes. And the Marcasano family certainly was not contacted or asked for this, but his gravestone is now in that TikTok video from behind that Trump posted on TikTok. He's also, the front of the gravesite with his name is in pictures that were posted online with Trump posing with a thumbs up. And, they were very clear, the family, in a statement to us that they really support this other family and other families that lost people in the Abbey Gate bombing in Kabul in Afghanistan.
Or as J.D. Vance said, the Abbey Road bombing.
But that this is a restricted area and that they would hope that everyone would be respectful of that. It was a restrained statement, but it was very clearly displeased.
Yeah. And what is the Trump campaign saying to this family, to your reporting?
When we asked them to respond, they would not directly address what the family said. When asked about the TikTok video, they wouldn't address whether they would continue using the gravestone images, just saying something to the effect of, we continue to honor the wishes of the Gold Star families who supported him, former President Trump, being there, which, again, their families are not a monolith. When it comes to military families, when it comes to families connected to any tragedy, people don't see things the same. The broader issue here is there is a federal law in place, and so far the Trump campaign has yet to provide documentation of its claim that it was permitted to do this, and there was an agreement.
Dan, do you think that was respect for former soldiers, or do you think that that was a photo op trying to stick it to Biden? For the pullout that went in when Trump failed to pull out. Like somebody said earlier, his pullout game is weak. His pullout game is weak. He talked about pulling out of Afghanistan. It should have been done a long fucking time ago. The fact that if you right-wingers want to complain about forever wars and rightly, comment that people like Obama and Hillary and to lesser extent Biden are in fact war hawks, great. But you sure don't seem to be standing up to your own guy to tell him to end a forever war that was going on 20 years, right? Trump stayed in Afghanistan because he didn't want the bad press of what happens when you pull your army out of a country where you have installed a puppet government, where you have installed puppet leaders. What do you fucking think happens, right? You're holding up a sandcastle by the beach and the tide starts to come in and you leave. What's going to happen to that sandcastle? Is that sandcastle going to be there for much longer? No, it's not. And it's going to be messy. You're such fucking hypocrites, right? I wish I could take you seriously. I wish there was a real contingent on the right that actually did stand for peace, where we could like reach across the aisle, at least on that issue, and stop. Because like the fact that there's so many people buried in Arlington kind of shows you where the United States' priorities are and how given the U.S. is to feeding the self-licking ice cream cone that is the military-industrial complex, right? I really wish that there were people on the other side that cared about that sort of shit, but y'all don't care about anything. You're just glazing up Trump, and I'm sick of it, and I'm going to call you out on it. I need you to realize that you're not helping anyone. You're not helping yourselves. You're not helping the Republican Party. You sure as fuck aren't helping this country by supporting this fucking ass clown. All right? Joe Biden dropped out. That was a good thing. Donald Trump needs to drop out too.
Right, because Trump's team is suggesting that they actually have video to prove what they say happened. Right. Why not release it?
I'd like them to. I hope they would release it. They should release it. They have videos suggesting.
I wonder why they won't release it, chat. I wonder. It's almost like the video doesn't show what they say that it shows. It's almost like the video shows something completely different. It's almost like they don't want us to see what's on the video.
This shows that the confrontation is not as described. They've claimed that they had permission to be there. There is nothing to support that. I want to add one other note, Pam, that was important from our story tonight, which is that we had reporting that the official in question at Arlington Cemetery, she had filed a report, but then she declined to press charges, and military officials said that she was afraid that she was going to be retaliated against by Trump supporters. It's worth noting that the Trump campaign targeted
Trump supporters. I wonder why people are so scared of you. It's almost like there's a chilling effect on the whole country.
Her suggesting she was having a mental health episode.
Well, Trump, for his part, also went on a reposting spree today, as I know you've seen, Maggie, including one that kind of makes my stomach feel sick. It involves both Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris with a crude sexual reference that suggested that Harris used sexual favors to advance her career. We are not going to show that post. And the Harris campaign responded to all his truthing, saying,
Wait, a QAnon slogan?
Donald Trump is out of his mind. But what does this signal to you about Trump's thinking and how Kamala Harris is getting under his skin?
Well, there's two things going on, Pam. One is that Trump just likes posting things like this. We have seen him do this for years. This is, not this extreme. This is pretty explicit. But he has toyed around the edges of this kind of thing for a very long time. And he did something recently, a similar type of repost on social media along these lines. So I think part of it is it just plays to what he wants to be talking about and enjoys. Part of it is I think that he believes that this is going to amplify, or people around him believe this will amplify these claims of his.
Soul Life says Hulk Hogan made fun of Trump in 2012.
And get people talking about them. And that is always the risk in talking about these things, is that it does spread it to a broader audience. But I think he has been trying to bait Kamala Harris and her supporters into a fight about race, a fight about gender. And that's what this speaks to. And I think that they have, for the most part, ignored it.
All right, Maggie Haberman, thank you so much.
Catherine, the thing that struck me here and that I'm interested to hear you weigh in on is that there's a family member. So there are family members who say they invited Trump to do this.
Thank you, Speedrunner, for the super chat. I will read the donos after this segment. We're almost done with this. Segment, and we'll be moving on to other stuff. I'll pause in between, though, and read off donos and let everybody who's just joined us know how the bonus goal works, how you could possibly squeeze a little extra content out of me today if you press me just right. Oh my God, chat, that sounds wrong. Anyway, chat, if that's wrong, I don't want to be right, but I am right. So regardless, we'll talk about that at the end of this.
To come graveside, right? And that's why it was okay that there were photographers there. However, they clearly don't speak for all family members of people who are buried in Section 60. And there is another family whose, the headstone for their loved one was in this photo op that Trump took there. And they talked to the New York Times. They say that they fully support another family's quest for answers and accountability about the Afghanistan withdrawal. But they also say that according to our conversation with the cemetery, the Trump campaign staffers didn't adhere to the rules that were set in place for this visit to this other family's gravesite that lies directly next to, this is the sister, my brother's grave. We hope that those visiting the sacred site understand these were real people who sacrificed for our freedom, and they're honored and respected accordingly. We didn't show what J.D. Vance actually said about Harris and Democratic criticism here. Let's play that, the rest of his remarks, please.
To have those 13 Americans lose their lives and not fire a single person is disgraceful. Kamala,
but now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
Harris is disgraceful. We're going to talk about a story out of those 13 brave, innocent Americans who lost their lives. It's that Kamala Harris is so asleep at the wheel that she won't even do an investigation into what happened, and she wants to yell at Donald Trump because he showed up. She can go to hell.
Catherine.
Again, she didn't say anything. She lives rent-free in J.D. Vance's mind. Kamala hasn't commented on this, right? He's like mad for an event that has not happened. But that just shows you how full of shit he is, right? He's the guy that faked being a hillbilly to write a book that actually dunks on people from Appalachia, that makes fun of them, that calls them like Mountain Dew mouth, makes fun of, people's bad teeth when, it's hard to get dental care in those areas. And with that level of economic deprivation, right? He faked his sort of roots as being Appalachian somehow in his book, Hillbilly Elegy, and it's faked outrage with this, right? Everything about, I think that's what bothers people about JD Vance, right? People say that, you know, it's immature to call a guy a weirdo and just be like, you know, he's weird. But it gets to something. He's weird because he's fake. He's weird because he's not real. He's weird because he's playing a fucking character. All right. And he needs to stop, and he needs to get real with the American people.
What are you hearing about this? Again, I'm sort of focused on the families here.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there are multiple families who are dealing with this and who are represented in this part of the cemetery. And obviously, the New York Times reporting, there were different feelings about this visit. And so that's a sensitivity that folks have to deal with. And real people are now getting caught up into this sort of political storm around this visit. And I think you can tell from their comments that that's tough for these folks. I mean, stepping back, I mean, this incident is something I think the Trump campaign is trying to highlight. The withdrawal, the fallout from the withdrawal, they see that as something that's effective for them.
Like I said, this was all about attacking Harris via Joe Biden.
Some of the chaos around this visit, I'm not sure how helpful that is to the Trump campaign. I think it's not clear that this narrative is helpful as they are trying to sort of drive a more clear message about leadership and accountability here.
Yeah, well, and Tia,
I would say that this blew up in their face.
The former president has also made a number of remarks about Americans who have been killed or wounded in action that have not been terribly complimentary.
Yeah, so instead of this being a way for the Trump campaign to highlight a problematic occurrence, a problematic event during the Biden administration, which was the Afghanistan withdrawal, which I think is something that is a valid, political point to make as Harris runs for president, right? But instead of stopping there and making that point, the Trump campaign now has created this narrative that feeds into what people already believe about him, is that not only does he not understand military service, but that he doesn't respect military service. And now that is becoming what we're discussing instead of the Afghanistan withdrawal. And that's entirely because of choices made by Donald Trump and his campaign. So even J.D. Vance saying, Kamala Harris can go to hell if she wants to criticize us on that.
Just ironic because she hadn't criticized them yet.
I think he might regret those words, because it's not just Kamala Harris or the Harris-Walz campaign or even just Democrats who are criticizing what happened at Arlington National Cemetery, the most famous cemetery in America. It's veterans groups. It's going to be military families, Gold Star families. And will J.D. Vance tell them to go to hell? I think he probably wouldn't, but they're going to be asking him, what does he mean by those comments? It just seems like a very unforced error for what started.
Yeah, this is exactly what I'm saying. This is an unforced error. This is electoral self-harm. Donald Trump, trying to go after Harris through Biden by weaponizing dead soldiers. And it blew up in his face, as it should have, right? For once we got karma. And for once we've got time for me to read out donos. Omega Star, thank you for the gift sub to Valerie the Lovely Italian. Valerie the Lovely Italian, you've just been weaseled. And you pick a good thing. I interrupted myself. I'm not supposed to do that. But yeah, thank you for the gift sub. Also, thank you to Speedrunner. Speedrunner super chatted $2. Many money votes for Sam and Destiny. Okay, so what does that mean? That seems like a strange thing to put in a super chat. Actually, no, it's a perfect thing to put in a super chat, because as you can see from the poll that's on the top of the screen, or I don't know where it is for you if you're watching on Shorts, it might be a little bit different. Hey, Galactic Streamlord, good to see you. We have a poll going on. We have a poll for bonus content, and that is bonus content that we unlock when this magical thing that we call the Dono Goal, that is actually kind of magical right now, because last night we did President Sunday's Dono Goal, and it was hard, but chat rose to the equation. Chat rose to the occasion. Yes, not the equation. That would be weird. That would be overly mathematical if the chat rose to the equation. No, the chat rose to the equator. No, the chat rose to the occasion. That's what we're talking about. And we defeated the President Sunday sub goal and got ourselves out of the morass of Theoryland. Chat, one in chat if you liked the theory. I want to know how many people were here last night and they actually enjoyed the theory. They appreciated it. But regardless, right, we've got a vote for you. You can vote on the topic that you want to see in the second half, right? Which we can get, which we unlock if the dono goal goes from, it's actually at 18%. So, I haven't really mentioned it much, but chat has already gotten to 18% out of 100%. If that shit gets to 100%, you unlock extra content. What content? Well, the content that you're voting for, which right now seems like chat chooses violence. Chat chooses violence. Oh no. Oh no. We're going to have to deal with more streamer drama, it sounds like. We also have Sam Harris Meets Destiny in second place. We got the real reason that Leftovers ended. That is Hassan and Ethan Klein's show, their podcast, their whatever it was. We have the real answer from Ethan's mouth, right? To watch at 23% in third place. And we got Tyler Moderates the Hippy Dippy. Not the most popular option right now at 15%, but that's okay, right? You can change the poll when you donate by letting me know which of these topics you want to see next. And I'm trying to think. Okay, yeah, it looks like wow. Fallout New Vegas is at 98. I need to do something special for the Gaming Frogs. There's been a lot of people. Yeah, the other thing you can say, oh my gosh, I need to change this, don't I? Tyler moderates. Dippy. Yeah, okay, so now we're the same. No, it says Dylan Burns. It should be Sam Harris. So like I said, Speedrunner said Sam and Destiny meets Destiny. There we go. And what that means is that I'm going to take the 2% from Speedrunner's super chat and I'm going to apply it to Sam Harris meets Destiny. What that means, chat, is that even though Chat Chooses Violence is leading in the polls, and it still is, Sam Harris Meets Destiny's got 2% extra on it. Right, so it's actually like at 29. Anyway, I got a little bit more to show you. I don't know if we'll watch this. We'll see how much we want to watch of this. But on the Trump at Arlington, and we'll get back to the poll. I'll keep you updated on it. Just know that when you donate, regardless of what kind of donation it is, let me know in the chat what you want to see as your bonus content, right? They're the items that you're voting for. You could also say Fallout New Vegas if you want to see me play Fallout New Vegas, or you could say Vox Populi if you want to throw it back to the chat and make it so that the donos count for less and the poll counts for more, right? So those are all options for you when you super chat, super sticker, get yourself a membership, or gift memberships to others in the chat, right? That all entitles you to put your money where your mouth is. That means you just tell me after you donate which of these topics you want to see next, and I put that as a percentage, just like I did for Speedrunner, on the topic of your choice. So you can actually kind of change the poll. You can interfere in the electoral process, so to speak, and with no legal consequences, much like our big boy Donald Trump over here. If he gets reelected, will have interfered with an election with no legal consequences, right? And yeah, that goes for Patreon signups, that goes for donations on Throne, and that also goes for subs and gift subs and primes on Twitch as well. So anything that's a donation, if it's a donation, let me know in the chat which of these you want to see next. Let's
joining us now and
get back to the Trump tent.
Waterville, Michigan, where Trump has returned to the campaign trail, as NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hilliard. Also with us is the Atlantic staff writer and MSNBC political contributor Mark Leibovich.
Is it just me, or does Vaughn Hilliard kind of look like AI'd?
So, Vaughn, you brought this to our attention yesterday. Truth Social is not a space.
Are there AI video filters
that a lot of Americans see because,
like, smoothing?
It doesn't have a large following. And the campaign, according to reporting, has kind of felt good about that because
I feel like Vaughn's just here to mog the other guy.
Allows Donald Trump to off-gas some of his wilder things. Except this is getting out into the public domain. How is the campaign explaining what he's promoting, from QAnon to this idea that a woman only got her job because of a sexual favor to a man?
Right, Katie, I think we should be clear that the campaign doesn't try to explain it, and instead they put on events like this one here at a steel plant in Michigan. And
Oh, that's how you spell Vaughn.
touted as being an event that's going to focus
I was thinking his name was VON.
steel manufacturing and jobs in Michigan. And you said that there is a very specific base of individuals who follow Truth Social, the media platform of Donald Trump. And for those individuals, they are looking at content that is different than the Trump campaign is tweeting out on X, if you will, who Donald Trump about 2 weeks ago joined that platform, but it's different content. And on that Truth Social account, Donald Trump, he reposts content frequently. Last month, he called for the public military tribunal of Liz Cheney. And again, you said it, calling for the
Liz Cheney
for sedition and perjury of January 6 select committee members of Congress, calling for the military tribunal of Barack Obama. We should note the sexist and degrading post that you mentioned there about Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton. Interestingly, if you will, this afternoon it appears to have been unreposted, yet that was up for about 24 hours. And it's not often that Donald Trump takes down anything, but he didn't take down any of the posts in which he called for the prosecution and the arrest of Jack Smith. And this, I think it's important here. Our job, as you have on the campaign trail, Katie, is to cover the Republican nominee for President of the United States. And while some may dismiss this as being social media reposts of memes, at the same time, these are words of Donald Trump and speech of Donald Trump. And if he were to get back into the White House, he would have a Department of Justice where some of his strongest allies have called on him to use it in a way that it's been untraditionally used in decades past. And that would be to have more authority over the actions of his attorney general. And he could very well order his attorney general to investigate and even seek a grand jury to prosecute and bring charges, an indictment against the individuals who these social media posts suggest he should bring charges against here. And so I think that there's a lot of outstanding questions that Donald Trump is yet to, frankly, face, Katie. And these social media posts, I think, are the most insightful into the mind of Donald Trump because in real time, they are happening from his keyboard. And 2 months out, I question here the extent to which the campaign, who, as you noted, they don't respond, they don't dismiss this, they don't put his name on an intern, as they tried to do in 2016 for making these posts. These are, for all intents and purposes, the speech of Donald Trump just through the medium of social media and memes.
The speech of Donald Trump, we're seeing all of these reposts. When he does actually talk about what he wants to do when he's in office, what does he say about his political rivals? How far does he go personally when he's talking about what he wants to do or what he believes he has the right to do?
On stage, he says that the district attorneys who are prosecuting him, others from the Department of Justice, should be investigated for their actions, calling it political lawfare. And he openly has suggested that there is cheating in the election of 2020, and he's already laying the groundwork that there is election interference, which online he has suggested amounts to being illegal ahead of the 2024 election here. At the same time, he's not as explicit verbally as he is on the social media posts. For instance, 2 weeks ago at Bedminster, I was able to get one quick question to him where I asked him whether he would order his attorney general to drop the two federal cases, the election interference and the classified documents cases against him. And he said he did not want to talk about that right then, but he called them nonsense cases. Of course, over the last 24 hours, he's had multiple social media posts in which he has explicitly said that the federal cases against him and the indictments and the charges against him should be dropped here. And so I think that's an outstanding question that journalists that have the chance to question Donald Trump will assuredly be asking him over these 2 months. And of course, I think the anticipation would be that we would hear some of these questions to him at the debate on ABC in 2 weeks, and potentially a third debate, which Donald Trump has previewed on NBC later on this month, Katie.
Yeah, and Mark, I don't want to amplify the derogatory nature of these social media posts or the conspiracy theories, but I do think it's important to be clear about what he's saying and to not sanitize Trump himself or not clean it up for the viewing public, because the viewing public are the people who will be deciding how they want to vote in November. It was the same, calculation that we had in talking about Donald Trump in 2016 with the Access Hollywood tape. And it's been, a calculation that we talk about every it feels like often when it comes to what Donald Trump says regarding a whole host.
Wait, so is the question whether playing the tape with and having it say grab her by the bleep versus what he actually said, which one's more effective?
Host of stories. Is it different today? Is it different today going into this election? Is Donald Trump's, are his words, is he more responsible for his words among voters today than he used to be?
One would like to think he was. I mean, one would like to think he was when the Access Hollywood stuff came out. I mean, this is, there's been a pretty low standard that he has held to from the beginning, and obviously his supporters will forgive him for a lot of things. I think what's interesting, though, is, like 2016, like Access Hollywood, he's running against a woman again. 8 years is a long time. It's also a lot of Trump. It's a lot of things to be exhausted over. And look, he actually does, if he wanted to be a disciplined candidate and a disciplined.
Wouldn't it be wild, chat, if the thing that saved us from Trump was media satiation? That even with a special guy like Donald Trump, and he is our special guy, chat, there will never be another one. Like the last night after doing the theory stream and then covering the drama between President Sunday and FD Signifier, and we're going to get back to that because apparently it has not stopped yet, right? We're going to cover that a little bit later. But after all that, I ended up watching more Trump, and specifically his statements about the late, great Hannibal Lecter. And I started off just like massively entertained because this guy fucking talks about Hannibal Lecter. He's like, he's coming to our country. He's coming to your country. He'd like to have you for dinner. It's so funny. But when I actually watched him, I feel like he's the late, great Hannibal. I feel like he's describing himself. I feel like there's something about that late, great Hannibal Lecter thing that just perfectly encapsulates like Trump's, antisocial essence, let's just say. And it's scary. It's actually kind of scary, and yet I laugh at it. So yeah, like there's, like the one thing that will suck about Trump going away is that some content goes away, right? But I suspect, chat, that he'll still be out there. He'll still be out there saying stuff. He just won't. Nobody will pay attention to him because he won't be a candidate.
Campaign.
He'll fade back into the background. You won't have Donald Trump to kick around anymore.
There are three pretty core issues he could be sticking to. It's the economy, it's inflation, it's immigration.
It's YMCA. That's what he's doing right there. He's dancing to the YMCA. That's the other thing. He dances to the YMCA. I'm not saying that I'll miss him, but his presence or lack thereof will be negatively felt.
That we're not going to be talking about today, no matter pretty much what he says today, because it's Arlington, it's these Truth Social posts, and you just know that if there are cooler heads and more responsible heads that are prevailing inside his campaign and fellow Republicans who clearly know better but aren't going to say anything, they have to be exasperated by this because this is another wasted news cycle, if you will.
Is the Arlington story kind of on par?
So what he's saying is that Trump needs good news cycles, right? It's just like a major league team. If they're down by 7 runs in the 6th inning, they need to put some numbers on that board, right? So every time that, there's 3 up to bat and there's 3 out, right? Every time that Trump strikes out in the media cycle, is not just, well, oh shucks, he didn't have a good day. It's like he's running out of days, right? He's running out of days and he needs to make up some ground. He needs to get back some momentum. And so for him to lose a media cycle is like way worse than it would be for Kamala to lose a media cycle at this point. He at some point cannot come back from that.
With the way that he's being derogatory toward Kamala Harris. I mean, we heard him early on go after John McCain. I don't like losers, like the people who don't get caught.
I prefer the soldiers who weren't captured.
This is him in Arlington Cemetery.
But maybe that's just me.
He's in a space that the Pentagon says Arlington says he's not allowed to be in with a camera for political purposes. The family did invite him in there, but the family of the other grave, the man who was in the other grave that also got photographed, is upset. They don't want to be.
Sorry, whenever anybody says they invited Trump in, it's just like, to me, it's like inviting a vampire. I don't know. It's like
of a political campaign. And there are veterans that are certainly fans of Donald Trump, but there are other veterans who say this is too much. It's too far. And now there's news from the Pentagon that there was a physical altercation, that one of the Arlington employees, a woman, was shoved, they say, by a Trump campaign aide. Shoved, physically assaulted.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, obviously, we're trying to figure out what's going on here, but I mean, it's an outrage. It's an outrage in the same way that, look, this is hallowed ground. This is not where political things, let alone, calamitous ones like this are supposed to take place. You're not supposed to tell, sacred, John McCain's war service, suckers and losers. I mean, go down the list. I mean, this is stuff that would have theoretically ended the career of any other politician to the point, until Donald Trump walked on the scene of all this. So, yeah, I mean, it's a familiar story. I do think, though, that it is framed in the context of 8 more years of this, a lot of exhaustion, and also an opponent that not only is she a woman, but also someone who is running a very kind of different tenor of a campaign. I mean, I do think that the Harris campaign has been pretty deft in not taking a lot of the bait here, not sort of amplifying it any more than it's already been, which, has been pretty, I think, detrimental to Donald Trump potentially, but also just sort of continuing to sort of pound on a joyous campaign, not focus too much on Trump as maybe Biden did, and sort of hope that it propels you forward
Thomas
as it has this summer.
Super chatted $6.03. Gire Vidal said the same thing about McCain and JFK, though, but then again, he did lose a leg in WW2.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you said Gore Vidal. Why does it read it like so weird? Oh no, it did. Said the same thing about McCain and JFK. Though he, but then again, he did lose a leg in World War II. Said that, like, you prefer soldiers who are not captured?
Offer an alternative. Mark Leibovich and Von Hilliard, thank you.
Okay, that is that. So I wanted to see... There was a video that I found that, like, perfectly... Look, I got JD Vance Gets Booed coming up for you, okay? But I really quickly want to show you what's going on with the Trump NFTs, because I'm massively amused by it.
God willing, Trump loses the election 9 weeks from now. One of the few elements of the MAGA era that we might actually feel a tinge of bittersweetness about finally moving past is the fact that absolutely no one sells worthless slop to his fans like this guy. Trump has always sold low-quality, overpriced junk to credulous rubes since long before he entered politics, with Trump-endorsed products like Trump Steaks, Trump Vodka, Trump University, and even The Art of the Deal and his many other books. And since the MAGA movement kicked off, plenty of third-party grifters have correctly intuited that Trump's fans will buy literally anything with his name attached to it, no matter how stupid. For reference, see our recent video on Trumpy Trout.
Just a wonderful video and a wonderful product.
A great product.
It's great because...
And a wonderful trout, if I do say so myself, folks.
Because he's not the one selling it.
I don't know anything about Trumpy Trout, but I'm a big...
I mean, you can tell what it would be used for. Somebody call JD Vance. This is better than his couch.
So for the past 9 years, it's mostly...
JD Vance is going to get that thing, and he's going to make copious use of it.
That kind of garbage from other people hoping to capitalize on Trump's fandom.
Oh my God, when you see it moving, you imagine it. You imagine it in action. You imagine it being used as a different kind of toy altogether.
In the lead up to the 2024 election, Trump himself has been more desperate.
Or maybe that's just me.
Cash than in previous election cycles due to the...
So this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about, right? He is scamming his own people. And the question is why? Also, Thomas Jerome, you got us up to looks like 23% of the sub goal. What do you want to see as far as bonus content? I'm curious. We call him Thick Shady.
Insane amount of civil and
oh yeah, we got to see the booing. We're gonna go to the booing in just a second.
So we've gotten stuff like Trump's line of
the fish Trump is the thing of nightmares. It's one of them. Yeah, Trumpy Bear is pretty. Did I must have closed down the link with Trumpy Bear, but Trumpy Bear is pretty scary too.
Hideous overpriced sneakers.
As Captain Olimar says, MAGA loves being grifted. It's funny to witness. I mean, yeah, it's hard to convince them, right? It's almost like, okay, if somebody literally sold you magic beans, but they didn't grow a beanstalk that went up to the giant or whatever from the fairy tale, they were just like regular beans. You might cope for a while, right? If you had traded a whole cow for those magic beans, you might tell yourself that the bean is going to grow a freaking beanstalk, okay? It just takes time. And look at the fairy tale, it happened overnight. In real life, maybe it takes, a few months. I'm going to water the bean plant and it's going to grow up really high and I'm going to climb it and get the treasure. It's going to be really good. You just wait. You just wait. And it's like, no, dude, you traded a cow for beans. That's a really bad deal.
As well as his own line of non-fungible tokens, NFTs. Speaking of those sneakers, they were supposed to drop like this summer or actually.
And look at these NFTs, chat. How much do you think? These are 99. These are Bored Apes of Donald Trump. I feel like they're less creative. I feel like there's more artistic, merit to a Bored Ape than there is. This is like a fucking Trump soy jack. Like, I don't even know what I'm looking at.
Actually get the orders fulfilled. And you would have assumed that because of the hype beasts and all of the hype surrounding them earlier in the year, that they would have made a bigger splash, especially, I would assume, at the RNC.
Well, people figured out that you can buy the exact.
Look, Forgiato Blow is definitely rocking those.
Same shoe from China with the same branding and everything on it.
Oh, well.
But I haven't checked. Maybe the shoes are in hot demand.
Yeah.
Or I have no idea.
Again, people are probably just holding on to them as a collector's item.
Yeah. The Smithsonian's going to want these shoes.
But back to those NFTs. You're saying, guys, it's been like 3 or 4 years. Who in their right mind would be buying and selling NFTs?
Trump fans.
Yeah. Trump first launched his NFTs in December of 2022. And it was
This is what I'm talking about.
Hilarious for multiple reasons. Now, first off, the timing. The NFT bubble had very much burst by then.
It was done.
That's 2022. Secondly, Trump hadn't yet announced that he was running in 2024. And before the NFT...
Do you remember before the NFT bubble burst? Do you remember when there was unironic, like, dudes on Twitter with a Bored Ape, their Bored Ape, as their avatar? And they had... What was it? There was, like, some weird little, like, hexagon. Do you remember this, chat? Do you remember when the Bored Apes were riding high? The yacht was sailing and everything was good? Do you remember when this shit was supposed to be the next investment, like, I don't know, breakthrough? Does anybody remember that? They were so fucking hard for those apes. Mike Lynch says, your analogies are terrible, thanks. Very opinionated. Well, so are you, Mike. So are you, actually. Nobody cares. Yeah, that's true, Mike. Nobody does care. That's right, and I'm nobody. And I care a lot, so let's get back to the
reveal.
Content.
This was hyped up as a major announcement.
Oh my gosh.
That his fans understandably assumed would be something more consequential than a collection of poorly photoshopped images of Donald Trump in various outfits. And thirdly, it was pretty clear that Trump himself had only the vaguest...
Work Appropriate says, sadly, MAGA is not very well versed in sanity, and those NFT cards are going to sell as wildfire. Yeah, because here's what he's doing, right? So they've made the money off of the Bored Ape Yacht Club kids already, right? Like all those people, all of those people, all those ground floor people, right? That maybe some of them actually made money. Maybe they flipped their ape and they sold it for, like maybe they made their money and got out, but most of them probably lost their ass on that shit, right? And so they know not to fuck with it. They know that this is a $99 piece of crap, but their parents don't, and their grandparents don't, and their aunts and their uncles don't. So like, yeah, you got the 4chan part of MAGA, and then you got the Facebook part of MAGA. And the 4chan part of MAGA probably knows at this point they probably know at this point not to waste their money on Trump NFTs. But again, Facebook MAGA, they're like, oh, cool, this new thing that was hot a couple of years ago. I remember this being really hot. Now I can be cool too. I'm going to have an NFT. Hell, if I get 40, what did they say? Something like if you get 47 of them, that you get a free dinner at Mar-a-Lago. You get to go to Mar-a-Lago, or like, I think there's a bunch of these commercials, right? They actually launched the Trump NFTs, or I don't even know if they called them NFTs at first, but the Trump equivalent of NFTs. They launched these things a long time ago, and they're just bringing them back.
Idea of what the fuck an NFT even is.
Hello, everyone. This is Donald Trump. Hopefully your favorite president of all time, better than Lincoln, better than Washington, with an...
I forgot about the better than Lincoln, better than Washington. He looks like AI. Chat, is he AI?
Important announcement to make. I'm doing my first official Donald J. Trump NFT collection right here and right now. They're called Trump Digital Trading Cards. These cards feature some of the really incredible...
Wait, is that Joe Biden? Oh my God, because it had the sunglasses on, I thought it was Biden.
Incredible artwork.
Chat, I just mistaked Trump for Biden.
Pertaining to my life and my career. It's been...
Wait, what does that pertain to? Come on. Is he a maestro a la Bugs Bunny? What part of his life does conducting a motherfucking symphony pertain to? Come on.
Very exciting. You can collect your Trump digital cards.
He says his name in a weird way. The rest of us say Trump. But he says Trump. It's your Trump digital cards. You can collect them in your digital wallet.
Just like a
Trump.
baseball card.
Just like a baseball card, folks. Except you don't have to carry it around because it lives in your computer. It'll live in your computer.
Or other collectibles. My official Trump digital trading cards are $99, which doesn't sound like very much for what you're getting.
You keep it in your digital wallet, folks.
And you will join a very exclusive community. It's my community.
You'll join his community. You can fucking move into... Wouldn't that be sick if he turned Mar-a-Lago into the Villages? Chat. He should do that. That's what he should do. When he invariably loses this fall, he should invite all of the MAGA chuds, all the Facebook MAGAs, not the 4chan MAGAs, right? Those people can, they could stay away, right? Because he's going to start like a retirement community where it's one of those places where you got to be at least 60 to be allowed in, right? You know, if you're younger than that, you can't buy, property there. He'll just turn his property on Mar-a-Lago into a giant, senior center for all the Facebook MAGAs to move to, and they'll live there right by him. They'll join a very exclusive community, folks. You'll be able to live with your favorite guy, Donald Trump. You'll ride around in a golf cart every day.
And I think it's something you're going to like, and you're going to like it a lot. They also make perfect gifts. So you can buy them with your credit card or crypto. All you need is an email address. Go to collecttrumpcards.com and buy your Trump digital trading cards right now before they are all gone, and they will be gone. This is my first official Trump trading card NFT collection, and you get a chance to meet me. Go to collecttrumpcards.com right now, and remember, Christmas is coming, and this makes a great Christmas gift.
And yeah.
Great Christmas gift. Yeah. The rubes that pay $99 for AI garbage. Well, look, I'm guessing that there's some kind of fees. I mean, it wouldn't be fees. It wouldn't be like the, shipping and handling fees, but there's gotta be, I bet it's more than 99. Because AI art is fucking trash. Imagine the rubes paying 99 for AI garbage. Is that what draws the Trumps? Oh yeah, I got you for the Fallout as well, Omega Star.
Not only just the most hideous, low-effort trash, basically dolls.
Yeah.
Paper dolls. But you can't even hang it on your wall to trigger your lib family members when they come over for Thanksgiving. You're paying $99 for a JPEG on your phone that you own. And it just doesn't get the same effect when you show your niece, hey, look at that. I paid $100 for that.
And you got to come over here and look at it because I'm not sending it to you. This thing gets into the wrong hands, I
had to watch several YouTube videos to figure out what a crypto wallet even is. And I'll be damned if I let you make off with this treasure of mine.
It has to have happened once so far where a young lib family member pisses off the patriarch and he goes, that's it. The Trump NFT cards are coming out of the will.
Yeah.
You get nothing.
You get nothing. I'm going to leave them to Trump.
Yeah. To his campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah, sir. A final donation, they say. But yet, somehow, that garbage sold out in like a day, netting Trump around $4.5 million. So it wasn't much of a surprise when almost exactly a year later, he released a new collection of Trump digital trading cards. And this time, instead of Trump's head photoshopped onto various costumes, AI image generators handled all the hard work of making these things look hideous. Here you go.
Hi, everyone. This is your favorite president, Donald J. Trump, with some very exciting news. My last 2 Trump digital trading card collections sold out in just hours. And now I'm back with my latest series called the Mugshot Edition. I wonder where that came from. The Mugshot Edition. 47 all-new stunning cards, and here is the best part. I'm doing 2
Wait, he's doing the mugshot and all?
things for my Trump collectors. For the first time, we're creating a real physical Trump.
Oh, here we go. So this is the story. The boomers did not understand the digital cards. And when he said when he tries to describe them, when he tries to advertise them as they're like baseball cards, right? You know, like baseball cards, you collect them. The people are like, oh, cool, I'm going to get a baseball card. And it's like, no, it's in your digital wallet. You've got it. It's on your phone or whatever, right? And they're like, I don't get a baseball card though. And so he's like, fine, you purchase 47 digital cards. Now, chat, that is like $4,700, right? Or more. I mean, if there's taxes and fees, right, it's more. That is a $5,000 investment in Trump, and then, and only then, do you get a physical card.
Trump card. Purchase 47 digital cards and we'll mail you a beautiful trading card.
I feel like if you really want to make the cards worthwhile, they need to have stats on the back, and they need to be like a trading card game. It needs to be like Yu-Gi-Oh cards or Pokemon cards or
it is an authentic
Trumpymon cards.
Piece of the suit I wore when I took that now famous mugshot. And
okay, so there's the first time that they cut up a suit.
It was a great suit, believe me, a really good suit.
So they took it away from me, folks. They took it right away from me, and they cut it into pieces, and now you can own a piece of it yourself.
It's all cut up, and you're gonna get a piece of it. I'll be autographing.
They cut it up while he was wearing it.
Some of them. A true collector's item. This is something to give to your family, to your kids and your grandchildren. With the purchase of 47.
Who the fuck is that? He has never looked like that. But wait, with the purchase of 47, okay, so at least they're giving you what, this dinner at Mar-a-Lago? Wait, so you get the physical baseball card, and you get to go to Mar-a-Lago and have dinner with this guy.
Of the Trump digital trading cards. You will also be invited to join me for a gala dinner at my beautiful Mar-a-Lago, my home in Florida. You've perhaps heard of it.
You've perhaps heard of it. It's a little bit notorious. I'll be sharing some secret documents that I was able to hold on to.
It's become a pretty famous place. We just had our first dinner for my collectors.
He'll like take you into the bathroom and show you like top secret documents.
We had a lot of fun together. That was a great evening. That was a fantastic evening. Some people call these cards pop art or modern art. I wish I looked as good as I do on those cards. That I can tell you. They give me muscles where, believe me, I don't have them. I wanted to keep my Trump digital trading cards at the same price, $99 each. So go to collecttrumpcards.com. It's really easy to buy.
Gotta catch them all.
Well, folks, Trump is back at it again. There is now
he has never been so back.
New collection of Trump digital trading cards. Sir, a third round has hit the airwaves.
Yeah, and you're going to want to collect them all.
And this is just in time for the...
But I mean, you know what this means, right? Because this, so I mentioned something about branding earlier. right? Trump is a brand, as a political candidate and as a, I don't know what business entity. Trump is a brand, right? In fact, he's more brand than man at this point. And that brand is actually getting diluted the more he does shit like sells NFTs or sells sneakers or, like all these scams that are pretty obviously scams actually do like hurt his brand. They hurt his credibility. And it is wild that he's done these at all. But when it's really wild is that when he's doing it during an election. And we've got, like they said, a third set of cards now available. He's doing it again. And this must mean that he's running out of money.
For the election, obviously. And it is just as weird as ever, but it also reeks of even more desperation and some weird perks. Yeah.
There's definitely perks here.
So check this out.
By popular demand, I'm doing a new series of Trump digital trading cards. You all know what they are. We've had a lot of fun with them. It's called the America First Collection. 50 all-new stunning digital trading cards. It's really something. These cards show me dancing and even me holding some Bitcoins. Here's the best part. I'm doing great things for my Trump digital card collectors. First, there's the real physical Trump cards. Purchase 15 or more of my Trump digital trading cards.
Oh, so they lowered, yeah, because it seems like 47. So now you only have to pay, what, $1,500 to get your physical, if you want the baseball card?
And we'll mail you a beautiful physical trading card. It's really, I think, quite something. Each physical trading card has an authentic piece of my suit that I wore for the presidential debate. And people are calling it the knockout suit. I don't know about that, but that's what they're calling it.
Yo, Jordan Peterson, how long before Jordan Peterson starts cutting up his suits and selling them off?
So we'll cut up the knockout suit and you're going to get a piece of it.
See, he looks sad.
We'll be randomly autographing 5 of them, a true collector's item. This is something to give your family, your kids, your grandchildren. Number 2 is to purchase 75 of my Trump digital trading cards. And you will also be invited to join me for a gala dinner at my beautiful country club in Jupiter, Florida.
This feels like a bait and switch, right?
We have tremendous.
You don't get to go to Mar-a-Lago.
Dinners with my collectors.
He's like, I invited some people to Mar-a-Lago and it kind of felt invasive. This is my home.
Have a lot of fun together.
So I thought I'd bring you over to the club in Jupiter. See, wait, now these are the pictures that are ostensibly in Mar-a-Lago, right? These are the pictures from before.
We're going to have a good time.
But you're not going to go to Mar-a-Lago, folks. You're going to go to my club in Jupiter instead. I don't want you in Mar-a-Lago. You messed up the upholstery last time.
I'm keeping my...
We got some very dirty Trump fans out there.
Trump digital trading cards at the same price of $99 each. We've done that right from the beginning. So go to collecttrumpcards.com. It's really easy to buy. You just need an email address and a credit card or crypto. You know, they call me the crypto president.
They do call him that. I certainly call him a crypto.
I don't know if that's true or not, but a lot of people are saying that, so don't miss out.
That's literally a dog whistle. They call me the crypto, wink, wink.
Go to collecttrumpcards.com.
Have fun with your Bitcoin and your crypto.
They said that I had a copy of Mein Kampf by my bedstand and I read it every night.
People tell me people like this stuff.
I love how much he leans into that when, like, clearly, to this day, we have no evidence that Trump knows what cryptocurrency even is.
No.
He just likes that people who own it seem to like him.
Yeah.
And so he's like, yes, Bitcoin, very cool. Have fun with your crypto.
Here's one of me holding a Bitcoin.
So yeah, interestingly, compared to previous Trump NFT drops, we get very few glimpses at what any of these new cards look like in the ad. And what we do see is pretty generic Trump fan art compared to the previous collections, which, like, at least in the original ones.
Wait, that looks like an Alex Gray. Like, what is that, like a Trump DMT trip? See that one above, right? Doesn't that look like some kind of psychedelic art? I mean, I'm sure there's a Trump fan that appreciates that one. Okay, I mean, I guess that we're good for the that now. So, because I promised you, chat, I promised you something else, and that is all about JD Vance gets booed by firefighters. JD Vance booed by firefighters. Change that on all platforms. There we go. So chat, in case you thought I wasn't going to do a full screen stream tonight, you would be wrong. You would be incorrect. That would not be right. We are going to do one, and I'm going to get it started probably during this next segment. Let me check really quick on the poll. We're at 25% of the way towards the donut goal. That is one fourth of the way there. I undersold it. We got chat choosing violence by 33%, 31% for Sam Harris Meets Destiny, meaning that actually Sam Harris Meets Destiny is actually ahead because 9% of people have donated 9% to that. So yeah, that Sam Harris Meets Destiny is actually ahead, followed by chat chooses violence, followed by the real reason that leftovers ended. That's Hassan and Ethan's show, and that's where we're at right now. Remember, when you donate, to let me know which of these topics you want to see me cover, and I will be happy to put your money where your mouth is and add your donation as a percentage to the topic of your choice. All right, so let's just get oriented here. I don't know, Adam Mockler, I choose you. I choose you, Adam Mockler.
Got some fans and some haters. That's okay.
Sounds like we got
liberal man.
Some fans and some haters. I didn't hear any fans, JD Vance. I did not hear any fans. This is brutal. He's getting booed more.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it again.
Sounds like we got some fans. Sounds like we got some fans and some haters. That's okay.
You can't really tell. You can't really tell.
Trump and I are proud.
I didn't hear any fans, JD Vance. I did not hear any fans. This is brutal. He's getting booed more.
Now, President Trump and I are proud to be the most pro-worker Republican ticket in history, and I want to talk about why we're fighting for working people, why we're going to fight for unions and non.
They're not buying it, JD.
He just tried.
They're not buying it.
To make a joke about taking his shirt off. He's making it so much worse.
And of course, we had.
Wait, what was the shirt joke?
People. President Trump and I are proud to be the most pro-worker Republican.
Fans. This is brutal. He's getting booed more.
Wait, where's the shirt part?
President Trump and I are proud to be the most alike.
He just tried to make.
I'm not going to try to take off my shirt here.
He can't even get the joke out. No.
What is the joke?
And while it's tempting, and I'm sure it would make some big headlines, don't worry, everybody.
Wait, we had Hulk Hogan. So he says we had Hulk Hogan. So, but don't worry, everybody. I'm not going to rip my shirt off a la Hulk Hogan.
I'm not going to try to take off my shirt here.
He can't even get the joke out. No. This video is going to...
It's like his Mountain Dew joke.
Make your day. Donald Trump sent JD Vance out on another damage control mission at a firefighters union in Boston, and JD Vance immediately was booed the second that he hit the stage. And this comes in stark contrast with Tim Walz talking to firefighters yesterday and receiving a standing ovation. I want to play this clip, but first, Republican vice presidential nominee JD Vance to address firefighters union in Boston. This was posted at 6 a.m. this morning, and it has aged poorly. Republican VP nominee JD Vance is scheduled to address the International Association of Firefighters in Boston on Thursday. Vance is set to speak to the firefighters union at 12:30, which was a few minutes ago in South Boston.
Okay, so this is what we got, chat. This is what we got for you next. We got a tale of two speeches. One of those speeches delivered by Democratic vice presidential nominee Tim Walz of Minnesota, and the other one delivered by JD Vance of Ohio. We're going to see what the reaction of these firefighters was to both candidates.
Democratic vice presidential nominee Tim Walz spoke to the same group Wednesday, and Tim Walz must have left such a good impression that they hate JD Vance. To lay the groundwork, I want to show you a minute of what Tim Walz said to them, and just
so that's an interesting theory. I hadn't really thought of that yet. I thought that maybe they just felt like that.
That this is Fox News playing Tim Walz's amazing speech. Leave a like on this video to help boost the message.
Look, I'll keep saying it.
And that goes double for me, chat.
Words are cheap.
Actions is all you should care about. Make sure you're counting on what was delivered. When Donald Trump was president, he blocked overtime benefits for millions of workers. He opposed efforts to raise the minimum wage, and he even proposed slashing budgets for federal fire service programs. Those are just simply facts.
He's killing
it. It's not just what they've done, it's what they're going to do. This is the big thing. One of the goals of their Project 2025 is to screw the middle class, making it harder for workers to collectively bargain, allowing employers to drastically cut overtime or eliminate it, slash taxes for the ultra wealthy by imposing a national sales tax on the rest of us.
Really quickly, could I just say how much I appreciate finally having a Democrat, a mainstream Democrat, who's able to go out there and speak the truth on Fox News. The only other people like that are Pete Buttigieg,
Bernie Sanders. See, here's where Adam and me are going to disagree. I doubt he says Bernie Sanders. I'll be pleasantly surprised if he does, right? But yeah, Pete Buttigieg. Keep thinking that, Adam.
Newsom. I mean, we do have a lot of good.
Gavin Newsom and Pete Buttigieg. Look, I don't often roast the people that I'm kind of, reacting to Adam's content. And in general, I don't disagree with his point about Waltz being a much better speaker than JD Vance, but holy shit, is this guy lib-pilled, right? Buttigieg. That's who you're going to reach out to Republican voters with, is Buttigieg and Newsom and fucking Gavin Newsom? Gruesome Newsom? Really? Is that what you think? Jesus.
Democratic interlocutors, but I think Tim Walz is really rising to the moment. And
these are the kind of libs that think that centrism and fence riding and like not even caring about the policies as much as you care about the team sports of it, root for Team Democrat, right? They think that that's a virtue in and of itself, and they don't understand that standing strong in your conviction, standing strong in your truth, is actually what the American people want to see, especially when it comes to a strong, progressive economic message.
Us to today, when JD Vance was speaking to the same exact group, and I guess they are so loyal to Democrats now because Tim Walz killed it that they booed JD Vance.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's true.
Semper Fi, guys. Sounds like we got some fans and some haters. That's
Semper Fi, guys. Yo, he tries to hide behind his Marine service. Vance makes me think of King Joffrey, thinking that people love him and then they almost kill him when he goes out into public.
That's okay.
Some fans and some haters, that's okay. In JD Vance's usual uncharismatic snake salesman-like tone, he tries to play this moment off, and it really just doesn't work. I want to bring you back to Tim Walz.
Look, I've said this.
All you need to know about JD Vance is that he's the kind of person that you have to be. You have only Ron Santos to be envious about you.
Old-time football coach. If you draw up a playbook, you plan on using it.
See, he's using sports metaphors.
2025 is a plan to reshape what America looks like, moving away from the middle class and putting it right back on the oligarchs and the wealthy at the top. He said he's going to repeal the Affordable Care Act. That thing is pre-existing conditions. Those are things that make sure that our family gets health care. And for many of our families, and I know you don't get to participate in it, but your families do, my mom does, Social Security and Medicare are life-saving programs for them. Instead of funding those programs, they talk about cutting them. So here, this is what I always say. If you got $1 billion, you don't give a damn if your Social Security check shows up. But if you're like my mom, that's how you pay for your food. That's how you pay for your heat. That's how things get done. So that check, pretty damn important to protect it.
And this comes at a time when we have more leaked clips from JD Vance. This is JD Vance saying,
"Oh no, we got more leaked JD Vance."
That he supports Donald Trump's Project 2025 plan. He says that, "I think what Trump should do is fire every single civil servant and replace them with."
Okay, I gotta be real. I hadn't heard this yet.
Our people.
I think that what Trump should do, like if I was giving him one piece of advice, fire every single mid-level bureaucrat, every civil servant in the administrative state,
So here's the thing about that statement, right? That is part of Project 2025, but that is also something that you would hear in the circles that JD Waltz travels in, right? In terms of, I'm talking about the industry that he was in Silicon Valley. I'm talking about Peter Thiel, and I'm talking about, people like Curtis Yarvin. That is literally straight out of a Curtis Yarvin essay. He's this guy that all of these Silicon Valley creeps follow every word that he says, right? And yes, it was probably influential into Project 2025. Has this exact policy as a key point in their platform. And here's JD Vance saying it, right? And look, we've got so much evidence tying Trump to Project 2025. He's trying to run away from it. He's trying to pretend that he doesn't even know what it's called. Project 25? What's that? I've never heard of this. Oh, that's some very conservative people. Haha, I don't know them. No, Trump, they all worked for you. Literally all these people worked for you, right? They're not just some very conservative weirdos out there that have got nothing to do with you. They are connected to Trump. And here you see JD Vance giving the exact same advice, 3 years before now.
Replace them with our people. And when the courts, because you will get taken to court, and then when the courts stop you, stand before the country like Andrew Jackson.
Thomas Jerome Newton says, like Elon at Twitter. Yeah, actually, Elon's kind of in the same orbit as some of these people. Treat the government like a business and make it crash. Yeah, and also, run it like an autocracy, right? Cut the guardrails out of the situation, and that's what he's trying to do with this firing of civil servants. This is literally the key, the first step in Project 2025.
Did and say the Chief Justice has made his ruling, now let him enforce it.
The rhetoric that JD...
Okay, so Andrew Jackson, responsible for the Trail of Tears.
Vance just used directly mirrors Project 2025, which directly mirrors what Donald Trump already did in his first term. He passed a Schedule F executive order. This Schedule F executive order said that Donald Trump could hire and fire civil servants at will, not based on their qualifications, but based on how loyal they are to Donald Trump, and probably based on how blonde they are. If you guys watched my previous video, I talked about how Donald Trump only hires people who are blonde.
Wait, now this I didn't know. Has anybody heard of this?
No matter if they're qualified or unqualified. Most of the time they are unqualified. But back to this, what JD Vance is saying is very real.
Look, I want to say, is that even real? But with Donald Trump, it probably is.
It's very dangerous. Donald Trump wants to tear down, erode the institutions that he thinks are punishing him, and he's going to do that by filling them full of loyalists. And then, if they break the norms for him, he can pardon them in the same way that he's going to pardon the January 6th hostages, or patriots. It's whatever he calls them. Donald Trump has a plan to completely dismantle all of our institutions and pardon the people that helps him. And people on Fox News are running defense. Watch this clip of Janine
Donald Trump Jr. is a brunette. Yeah.
Saying or complaining about Kamala Harris doing a pre-taped interview with CNN, even though this segment appears to be pre-taped. Watch.
It's going to be pre-taped. Why pre-tape? So they can edit it under pressure. Republicans want everything live because we're willing to admit what we're saying and how we're saying it, but not her.
This is coming from the network that only posts pre-taped interviews with Donald Trump and even cut out a segment where Donald Trump stumbles around Epstein's name. You guys know which one I'm talking about, right? Let me know in the comments.
We do have some Epstein news, actually, some connection between Trump and Epstein news to get in that actually does Morbius Dragon, thank you for the gifted. Oh, sorry. I almost thought for a second there, I thought you had gifted yourself. I was like, that's magical if you figured out how to do that. Thank you for the gifted membership to M Nemesis. M Nemesis.
You've just been weaseled.
You just got weaseled.
That's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
Donald Trump does call into Fox News every once in a while unscripted, and I do think VP Harris is going to start doing that. But the idea that Donald Trump never does pre-taped interviews, he just did Dr. Phil.
Call into Fox News?
Pre-taped. He has done the Logan Paul podcast, pre-taped. He's doing Lex Friedman. He's done MSNBC. He has done OAN, all pre-taped. Everything that Donald Trump does is pre-taped, but Republicans want to project one more time. Let's watch this clip of JD Vance getting booed. It's so beautiful.
Semper Fi, guys. We got some. Sounds like we got some fans and some haters. That's okay.
Sounds like we got some fans and some haters. I didn't hear any fans, JD Vance. I did not hear any fans. Quote, firefighters, police.
Yeah, it's hard to tell unless, look, is whistling at somebody, is that considered rude or good? I don't even know that. I can't imagine going someplace and like whistling. Is whistling bad? I don't even know. You always gift yourself? I'm surprised it didn't do it this time.
Officers, construction trades, teachers, and nurses, and
I didn't realize that was a thing.
Veterans who contributed their contributions to our nation long after they got out of the military service. It was you who built the middle class, and we know when unions are strong, America is strong, Tim Walz said at his speech to firefighters. And honestly, people like Tim Walz and Kamala Harris give me hope that there are politicians who will fight for the middle class at a time when Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans around him run on widening the wealth gap that we see in America. The IAFF, International Association of Firefighters, is one of the largest labor unions, representing nearly 350,000 firefighters, many who exist in swing states, emergency medical workers, and rescue workers across the United States and Canada. The IAFF endorsed President Joe Biden in 2020, but it has not endorsed either party's candidate this year, but I think we can see the direction they're going in. Their spokesperson said they do not have a timeline for a potential endorsement, but just looking at Tim Walz's speech, I think it's pretty safe to say we know who they're endorsing. Make sure you leave a like on this video.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it looks like, at least. Let's look at this clip.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Well,
they're definitely booing him. Those aren't cheers. Those aren't cheers.
President Trump and I are proud to be the most pro-worker Republican ticket in history, and I want to talk about why we're fighting for working people, why we're going to fight for unions and non-union alike.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the whistling's bad, right? They arrested an 80-year-old woman for following... Oh my god. Have we got some J6 truthers in here, Noble Steed?
Now, our enemies and a lot of Democrats call us populists, like it's something of an insult. But if being a populist means being on the side of working people rather than the powerful elites who hollow...
Look, Noble Steed, I'm glad somebody's out there looking out for QAnon grandmas that think that the deep state is stealing the fucking election. And then, oh, I just followed the crowd into the, we're not supposed to be in here? Oh, I don't know, the crowd was going in here. Oh, I'm an 80-year-old woman, I don't know any better. Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Out our middle class and sent us into stupid foreign wars, then sign me up. I am a populist, and I'm proud of it.
There you go.
NBC's Gabe Gutierrez is following the Harris campaign from the White House. Matthew Dowd was chief.
Okay, so now this is about polling. We will get to polling in a bit. Here we go. Here's the whole speech. No, mute. Fucking country music. You're gonna get me shit canned. Okay, so yeah, I didn't get to show you it, but yeah, they were here. Let's see if we can. Oh god, it's so tight. It's so tight. I said that the wrong way, didn't I? I wasn't trying to imply anything, chat. I'm talking about JD Vance's couch, okay? I'm talking about the man's couch. The couch is incredibly tight. His words, not mine. Oh my god, I just want to rewind it like a few seconds, please. Like, there we go, 6 seconds. Yeah, they're like shouting him down. Damn. Semper Fi, guys. Semper Fi.
Sounds like we got some fans and some haters.
You wouldn't want to boo a Marine.
That's okay. Listen to what I have to say here, and I'll make my pitch. I want to first say
I'm a Navy SEAL.
Thank you to Representative Jimenez for the great introduction. It's very kind of you. Thank you for your service to our country. The only career firefighter in the United States Congress. So thrilled to have you on our side and thrilled to have you fighting for America's firefighters. Let's give it up for Representative Jimenez. Now I also
Semper Fi, guys. Semper Fi. What the fuck do you fucking say to me, you little bitch? I'll have you know that I'm graduated top of my class of the Navy SEALs, and I'm involved in numerous secret raids on Al-Qaeda. I have 300 confirmed kills. I'm trained in guerrilla warfare, and I'm a top sniper in the top sniper in the entire U.S. Armed Forces. You are nothing to me but just another target. I will wipe you the fuck out with precision, the likes of which you've never seen before on this earth. Mark my fucking words. You think you can get away with booing me at my at my speech? Think again, fucker. As we speak, I am in contact with my secret network of spies across the USA, and your IP is being traced. Okay, sorry, Chad. I can't give you the whole copy pasta, but that's what he was thinking. That's what he was thinking. Except replace U.S. Navy SEAL with Marine.
I also want to thank President Kelly and every single IAFF member for your warm welcome. It is an honor to be here with
your warm welcome. Jesus Christ.
Incredible firefighters, and I'm honored to be here. God bless you guys, and thanks for what you do. Now, I do have some news to break this morning. I guess I just heard on the ride over here that the New York City Fire Marshals Benevolent Association has endorsed the Trump-Vance ticket. I, of course, want to thank them for their support, and I want to humbly ask all of you to join them, and I'd like to explain why. Now, the American people respect...
Why does that one sound like a cop union?
They respect firefighters, and we're eternally grateful for the valiant work you do for our communities and for our neighborhoods. Every day...
Tyrone, are you saying that his pants are on fire?
Firefighters risk your lives to save homes, businesses, and the precious lives of our fellow citizens. Now, you're also incredibly kind and patient. As the father of a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old, I have been to firehouses all over this country, in San Diego, Atlanta, and New York City, and of course many in my home state of Ohio. And despite the fact you guys are probably annoyed to have a few young kids drop in, you were always unfair.
Sounds like he's salty.
Kind and patient, and I'm grateful to it. It's one of the reasons we love our firefighters in this country. You all are the embodiment of American spirit. Heroic, determined.
Sarah says Midas interviewed a MAGA granny who did her time and took responsibility for her actions without making excuses. You should check that out, noble steed.
Selfless, hardworking, and tough. This country was built by people like you. America is great because of people like you, and I believe you deserve a government that is loyal to you. Now, I know Governor Tim Walz was here yesterday, and I'm glad he was able to come. And I respect this union for inviting.
He's got to find a better way to say come. Like the way that he said it, it brings me back to the couch in Hillbilly Elegy. Pages 189 to 193 to be specific.
Both sides to take the stage and to make the case to all of our membership. And of course, that's what democracy is about. You listen to both sides, you weigh their records, you weigh their plans, and then you vote.
He is like an emo Bond villain. I don't know.
And so today I'm asking you to ignore the campaign rhetoric and look at the record. In 2019, this union endorsed a Democrat for president with high hopes. But sadly, I believe you've been let down. Now let's talk about the issues that affect all Americans, and let's talk about some of the issues that affect just firefighters. But all Americans are affected by this terrible inflation crisis. And under President Trump, wages were rising, and nobody was really talking about inflation.
Wages were rising. 2020. Wages were rising, he says.
In 2020 in this country.
And again, that's where the inflation came from. The inflation came from the COVID period, right?
But under the economic mismanagement,
not that I would like blame a president just for being president at that time, but I feel like we probably could have had more competent leadership that would have made a lot of things better. Would it have made inflation better? I don't know, but you know, there's a global inflationary crisis, and it's one that the United States has largely come out of, and that's not something you can say for the rest of the world. So it's
of this administration. Firefighters have had already strained budgets and pensions stretched to the breaking point by this affordability crisis. With President Trump at the helm, our border was secure and drug trafficking was down. And under the open border policies of this administration, America has experienced a massive increase and a massive influx of illegal aliens and deadly drugs. And I know that a lot of you are on the front lines fighting against it. Enough fentanyl has poured into this country under Kamala Harris's leadership to kill every single American, man, woman, and child. And firefighters and EMTs every single day are fighting against this crisis. I know it because I've seen you in my communities, and I admire you for it.
I admire you for it. I've seen you, and I admire you. I admire you very much.
Now, when I visit a factory or some other place of business, I always ask the workers there, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? And the answer is...
That's not the question you want to ask, right? You'd be better served saying 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, because they likely were. But when you say 4 years ago, if they're really thinking about what you're saying, then they are remembering a very fucked up time for our country where the leadership of the president was talking about using bleach to kill COVID. The president was talking about how COVID was just going to spontaneously disappear. It'll go away, folks. It'll all be gone by this summer, right? It's not. It's still not gone.
Is almost always no. Now, I want to ask the firefighters in this room.
And if you were better off, it was because of the stimulus that Trump did not want to give.
Slightly different.
It's because of Trump undertaking a very non-Republican style policy because he had to.
But a related question. Are you administering less Narcan today than you were 4 years ago? My guess is that for almost every person in this room, the answer is unfortunately no, and that was a policy choice.
Again, I wonder how, the lockdown affected the distribution of something like that.
A policy choice of the president administration. Now, you are so often the first to respond when someone is suffering an overdose. You try to help our fellow citizens living with addiction to survive those overdoses and to be able to build a second chance at a better life. And I know, and I've seen it very personally, you try desperately to revive parents who took something they shouldn't, all while comforting the children who are terrified that they might lose their mom or dad. I've spoken to so many firefighters and EMTs over the years who are on the front lines of this drug war, this addiction crisis. They revive people who took fentanyl, they rescue their children, and they even sometimes, as you all know, put out fires that were started by drug addicts.
Those drug addicts, always starting fires. Anyway, let's take a look at Tim Walz really quick. See how his speech went different. Yo, mute the dad rock. Mute the dad rock.
I know you got a lot of important business to get through this week, but I do want to say how grateful I am and what a privilege it is to stand in front of this group.
Look at the difference in energy between JD Vance and Tim Walz, right? Now, I'm just speaking as like a person looking at the horse race, looking at the way that this campaign is being run, and I am seeing infinitely more competence, infinitely more likability, relatability, infinitely more riz from Governor Tim Walz than I am from JD Vance. It's night and day. And I don't know how that sort of deficit could be made up for.
Thank you, President Kelly. Thank you for every single day advocating for the 350,000 heroes that you know that you represent with passion. And to General Secretary Treasurer Lima, thank you. This is an incredible leadership team. I got to use a point of personal privilege and a shout out to your 5th District VP from Bethel, Minnesota resident, Tom Thornburg. Tom, it's great to always see you. And every delegate in this room representing your 350,000 of your membership. Look, you got busy jobs, you got families. You travel here to do the important work of understanding. I'll often have people tell me, look, I'm really not that into politics. My response to that is too damn bad. Politics is into you. And if you're not here advocating for that, if you're not here advocating for the messages, it's hard to get it done. So as a card-carrying member of my state teachers union, I feel very proud of that. I saw the other day I got attacked by the Wall Street Journal for being richer than my disclosure says because I have 2 defined benefit pension plans. Seems like that's a little different than Google stock that was handed to you, but that's what we did. So maybe a few more of us should be dues-paying members. But I can promise you this, when Vice President Harris and I win this election, we'll have your back just like you've had ours this entire time. And just as I've done as governor and just as the vice president has done, I look forward to working hand in hand with you to deliver for the locals back home because that's what really matters. But if you'd bear with me, it's a privilege to be in front of this group, but I have to say it's also personal. The Minnesotans know this, and some of you in this room might know. Last year, we lost one of our bravest firefighting heroes, and I personally lost a dear friend. Chris Parsons was fire captain from St. Paul. He worked closely with us and was president of the Minnesota Professional Firefighters. Chris was 6'7", stood out in any crowd, but it's hard to imagine his personality was bigger than that 6'7". He was the most generous and kind and funny individual that I had ever met. One conversation with that guy would make your entire day better. Tragically, we lost Chris in the line of duty. It's kind of heartbreak that no family and no community should have to endure, because every hero deserves to come home at the end of every shift. And know this, we see your noble courage. We're forever grateful to you for going above and beyond to keep all of us safe. And we're committed to building a future that you and your families deserve. As Minnesota's governor, I was proud to bolster resources for firefighter training and education, to invest in the equipment and the facilities to keep you safe, and to sign the most comprehensive fighter well-being legislation in the nation.
So yeah, you're seeing one person in J.D. Vance struggling to even not be hated, to find something that he can say that he can get applause for, right? And you got somebody else actually talking to the firefighters like a human being and relating to them, and on a whole different level, right? This is what I mean when I say it's just not even close. Like, I can't imagine, chat, what this vice presidential debate, if it happens, is going to be like. I cannot imagine this going well for J.D. Vance to have those two on the same stage. It's going to be something. Anyway, chat, let's move on from the J.D. Vance story. I gotta talk to you now about Russia, Putin's Russia. Putin welcomes Trump supporters. Live in Russia. We're going to be talking about Vlad. Not to be confused with Volodymyr Zelensky, like Joe Biden did. We're talking about Vladimir Putin. And we're talking about how he is welcoming in MAGAs that are tired of living in the United States. And I expect that after their guy fails to win for a second time, they're going to be not nearly as pro-American and as happy to live in the United States of America as they are now. let's take a look into our friend No Fuckers and his report about Putin inviting MAGA to come live in Russia.
Hey there, viewer. I have a question for you. Are you from the West? Are you a traditional Sigma gigachat conservative that is tired of the woke agenda in the world and the woke propaganda that is destroying everything? I bet you are. Now, would you like to be able to live in a more traditional and based society? Oh, and also, do you guys not mind potentially becoming cannon fodder? As ordered. Well, if you answered yes to all of those, I have great news for you because Vladdy Daddy Vladimir Putin is coming to rescue you because Putin just signed an official Russian law that is supposed to make it easy for foreigners to live in Russia if they quote-unquote are doing it because they want to escape Western liberal ideals. Yes.
Sounds like a good idea? Sounds like a good idea to people? Yeah. Get away from the woke culture? Vladimir Putin, he won't tolerate the wokeness.
Guys, what I'm talking about right now is absolutely real and not a joke. Russia is now actively inviting Western conservatives to move to Russia. Hey,
Good Citizen points out firefighters are often cross-trained as EMTs. Yeah, and apparently the same union. I didn't know that, actually.
Hey everybody, it is your boy Roman, your favorite neighborhood Russian, and in this channel previously I've already talked about quite a few Westerners who moved to Russia, including some absolutely insane specimen, yeah, like that guy for example, who got a Z tattoo right on his chin.
No! Did he have to have, like, tattoos removed to get it? Like, when you get tatted to a certain extent, do you actually have to get ink removed in order to tattoo yourself at that point?
Supposedly there's news out there that the guy's actually on the front line right now, so, you know, alright.
He's on the front line. He's being used.
A real one. But seriously, throughout the last 2 years, there's been no shortage of Westerners appearing in Russian propaganda videos in which they basically praise Russia and say how it's the safest and the best and the cleanest country to live in, where there's no...
They have bread. They have bread there, I've heard.
People, there's never any trash on the ground, and also, of course, no woke degeneracy.
Really nice subways.
Only traditional values and based conservatism.
I walked around the center of Moscow for 1 hour. I said, wow, I don't see any gays and liberals on the streets. I see men and women couples. I don't see transvestites. I don't see homo.
Last 2 years about conservative Western families moving to Russia.
Like, that's enough for you, sir.
To escape the woke LGBT problem.
You do not need people speaking hate speech.
The West or whatever.
I'm right now in Russia, which might be a controversial country for many people, but also here in Russia, it is one of the most traditional countries that you will see in the world. Absolutely no PC, absolutely no of this.
There's all sorts of Westerners moving to Russia saying the reason we're moving to Russia is because in the West you cannot say anything anymore. There's no free speech whatsoever.
That's the best reason to move to Russia. Free speech. That is the best reason to move to Russia.
Russia, of course, being the most free country in the world, the bastion of free speech, in fact. I, as a Russian, would testify so, totally. Yeah, this whole thing kind of became a new industry in Russia, almost. And now being a Westerner who lives in Russia and praises Russia for Russian propaganda is basically kind of like the new white monkey job in China, you know what I mean? And well, guys, once again, like I said, now Russia is not only just promoting itself to Westerners, but is actively inviting them to come over and move. For some reason that we're gonna get into. So here we are, this is TASS, this is Russian media saying, Russia offers safe haven for people trying to escape Western liberal ideals. I cannot
Somebody tell Haas.
believe this is fucking real, dude. I cannot
Somebody tell Infrared Haas.
believe this is happening.
Your dream could finally come true.
Under the document, such foreign nationals will have the right to apply for temporary residence in Russia outside the quota approved by the Russian government, and without providing documents confirming their knowledge of the Russian language, Russian history, and basic laws.
Wait, but chat, if you were a MAGA, wouldn't you stop to think for a second that Russia needs to have borders? Right? That if immigration is bad for the US, maybe the immigration is bad for Russia too? Wouldn't you start to think that maybe if you like Putin and you like Russia and you like what they've got going there and you believe that immigration hurts a country, that you shouldn't move in there? I don't know.
This was on August 19th. Moscow will provide assistance to any foreigners who want to escape the neoliberal ideas the neoliberal ideals being put forward in their countries and moved to Russia, where traditional values reign supreme, according to a decree signed by President Vladimir Putin. Oh my fucking god. Yes, this is real. So, essentially, if you're a foreigner who wants to move to Russia, all you have to say is that you're really triggered by the woke agenda of the West.
You can claim asylum, but isn't that bad? Isn't that... Wait, as a MAGA, aren't I supposed to be against asylum? Right? The idea that you could just come into a country and say, I declare asylum. And they'd have to be like, okay, we're going to have a hearing for you. Right? That's just like letting in those immigrants, right? It's funny how much cognitive dissonance they're able to take.
And that you feel scared, and that you need a safe space. How very ironic, right? And then what happens is that Russia will give you preferential treatment to any other migrants or anybody.
Well, Garfield, he's talking about the way that there's actually free speech in Russia. You know how, like, in the United States, there's, like, wokeness? And so you don't have free speech because you have wokeness. There's too much wokeness for there to be free speech. But in Russia, there's no wokeness, hence the freest speech you could imagine, right? The freest speech. You can say all the slurs that you want to. Just come to Russia. Come to Russia. Nobody's gonna woke scold you here.
Else trying to move into the country, and you won't even have to know a single thing about the Russian language, Russian history.
Lady Badash, I see what you're saying, but in the way that that guy was using it, it's like literally denying the existence of trans people. Like that's a special usage of that word.
In basic laws. Honestly, I think that is the catch right there, honestly. The fact that Westerners will not have to pass a test on the knowledge of the Russian laws, so the Westerners, these insane people who think that Russia is a more free country than any country of the West, they're gonna move to Russia and say some crazy shit because they believe that Russia has more free speech in America, and then they're gonna get jails in Russia. Because what they thought was legal is actually not. That would be poetic. And then you can also basically mobilize them right from the prison, so
That's the best part. That's the best part.
It's fucking brilliant. It's fucking brilliant. Jesus Christ, I gotta give kudos.
Wait, Aisha moved there? I did not know that. I think we've had Aisha in our chat before.
To the Russian government. Now look at a couple of articles about this, and all of them mention that Russia specifically said that they would like to give residency permits to foreigners whose countries are forcing destructive neoliberal values onto them. Which is kind of like hilarious to me.
Neoliberal values.
What is Russia if not neoliberal? Russia literally operates kind of like the United States.
I mean, yeah. Ever since the Soviet Union, Russia has been, Russia actually, I don't know if Naomi Klein talked about Russia and shock doctrine, but I feel like it could have been discussed along with, along with the other countries she talked about in that book. I feel like the disaster capitalism was definitely an effect in post-Soviet Russia, and the reason that it became like the, essentially ruled by the power of oligarchs is because of U.S. policy towards Russia and how it exploited the country post-Soviet Union.
States in everything they do. Like, Russia is literally a liberal, almost fascist, capitalist country. Like, I don't know what they're expecting. What are you talking about? Is being gay neoliberal? Applications...
That's what he's saying. That is unironically what he's saying.
Maybe based on the rejection of the country's policies, which run counter to traditional Russian spiritual and moral values. The values are listed in the foundations of Russia's state policy in this field, while the Russian government is expected to compile a list of countries imposing unhealthy attitudes on their citizens. The Foreign Ministry has been instructed to start issuing 3-month visas to such applicants as early as in December. So yes, guys, what can I say? Epic win. Once again, if you're an epic conservative that is tired of the...
Yeah, common ZW.
...agenda, Russia is here for you. Vladimir Putin is going to unshit your pants, and is...
That is an amazing trick right there.
...going to make your wife come back. Yes, that is happening.
Your trad wife.
The reaction to this from right-wingers in the West has been pretty normal, of course. Here's Alex Jones, for example, saying, "Breaking! Putin just dropped a bombshell decree, inviting people from all across the globe who are fed up with the globalist, neoliberal nightmare to..."
Okay, now, on the real, if I was a conservative, right, I would try to convince other conservatives not to move to Russia. If I was a conservative, I would be really worried about the, elections of the near future that are going to be brought by demographic change. And I'd be trying to keep all the Trump voters in the country as I could, right? It doesn't actually make sense. I mean, look, I don't think that there's, as silly as MAGA people are, I don't think that many people are going to actually take Vlad up on this. There's some extremists, there's some weirdos out there. They'll go over and spend like a couple of miserable years before coming back. But I don't think this is actually going to appeal to that many people.
Sanctuary in traditional Russia. Traditional Russia is, by the way, a complete myth. Russia was never that traditional as a country. There's a long history of homosexuality and in general just sexual deviancy in Russia. Back in the Tsarist Empire times, etc. In the 90s and in the
Thomas Jer, super chatted $6.03. I have a friend that wants to visit Russia, but am worried about his US citizenship application.
Oh yeah, that is a concern. That definitely is a concern. Thank you for the super chat, Thomas. Did you say Sam Harris and Destiny earlier? I think that brings us up to 35% of the dono goal. Wait, I might even be undercounting it, chat. I don't know. No, I'm correctly counting it. And again, I paused right on, is that the band Tattoo? It is. Apparently, chat, this is queer baiting. It's not real.
In Russia that was really not that traditional and not that base conservative. Russia is not some bastion of conservative values, and in fact, it's not even that religious. Georgia is the most religious country I've ever been to, by far. Where every taxi driver crosses themselves when he passes by a church, that's when you see that a country is religious. This new decree blows the lid off the establishment's agenda, letting freedom-loving folks bypass the usual bureaucratic nonsense like language tests or history exams. I mean, yes, of course. Who needs history?
Who needs that?
Who cares about learning language, of course? That is very American there. Come to Russia, my friend, where everybody speaks perfect English. If you're ready to reject the insane policies of your home countries that push the destructive anti-human neoliberal agendas, Russia is rolling out the red carpets. No pun intended. The Russian government is about to compile a list of countries poisoning minds with these twisted ideals, and the foreign ministry is gearing up to issue visas to true patriots as soon as September.
But only to true patriots.
To stand up for spiritual and moral values. That makes sense to me, that a patriot of America would move to Russia.
Right now, Juan and I just found out that Vladimir Putin signed a decree allowing people like Juan and to apply for residency, temporary residency in Russia, just for simply disagreeing with the moral policies of our countries. I disagree with the moral policies of the United States government. Juan disagrees with the moral policies of Argentina.
Damn, I also disagree with the moral policies of the United States.
Wait. When is this? Is this before Milei took over?
See that? And Russia, by the way, which is I'm kind of fucked, aren't I? I just have no place in this fucking world.
Argentina. So now, oh, thank you, God. This is the news we've been waiting for. This is it right here.
It's so weird that this TikTok is going on in a barber shop.
Yes, very happy.
You got God, you got Putin, you got...
I just love the fact that the Russian government essentially cares more about the lives of foreigners than they do about the lives of actual Russians and Russian citizens. But, I'm not exactly not used to the government not caring about my life.
Oh my God, he's just like Trump. Oh wait, maybe that's like the normal thing. Yeah, it looks like he's giving... So wait, is that part of a ceremony? You kiss the cross?
So cringe.
Oh no, is he kissing a body?
Putin is not religious. He does not care about Christianity. He's a KGB officer. Jesus Christ. Thank you, President Putin, for giving Christians and white people around the world an opportunity to save themselves and their families. It's not good. It's not looking good. It is so comforting to know that those who share conservative values can have a place on earth where they will be respected. Dude, no people with any values are respected in any... Like, what What is this? Anyway, let's not look at Twitter too much. I want to give this a little bit of an analysis. First of all, as far as I understand, this has already kind of been in the works. For example, last year, Russia announced that they're going to build a so-called migrant village for conservative American expats.
Yo!
You know, just incredible, and
Chat, they're building the villages in Russia.
honestly, I'm kind of scared because I think Americans will probably colonize Russia if they actually start having settlements like this.
The Rus, the precursor to modern Russians, were also extremely queer.
On a serious note, yes. Russia has been definitely appealing to the conservative demographic in America and the West recently. And I've already talked about this on my channel for years, that Russian propaganda and the Western conservative propaganda coincide pretty much all the time in their views on gender, sexuality, etc., right? So, essentially, if you don't like trans, gay people, etc., Russia is saying, hey, we also love segregation. We also love, you know, not giving equal rights to human beings who might have different feelings or whatever. Hell yeah, dog, let's fucking go. Freedom. And look, I've kind of poked fun at this inside thing. However, in all honesty, I kind of feel like even though this is ridiculous and funny, Russia kind of has everybody outsmarted on this one because, unfortunately, I don't really see a scenario where this would be, like, bad for Russia. And they're kind of, like, doing the right thing, almost, for them and for their agenda and for what they want to push. I don't support Russia, I don't like their agenda, I don't like their propaganda, but they're doing the right steps for them. Because, you know, I don't actually expect like a ton of people to move to Russia through this. But
yeah, so Russia actually has control over a lot of land, and some of it very resource rich, to the point where they can't really develop some of the resources that they have in very underpopulated parts of the country. And these are parts of the country that maybe China has a historical claim to. So, you know, people think of Russia and China as being strong allies, but in fact, there is something that China wants from Russia and might actually take it, and they would have a better chance of exploiting those resources. So yeah, Russia needs, you know, more people, and you know, when the result of, I'm sure this policy of mobilization that they've undergone makes people want to leave the country, right? They've got to have some way of replacing that population.
But those who do, for sure, will become a sort of a tool of propaganda. They're going to be given, you know, a nice
It's the villages that the KGB had to train agents to blend into Wait, the villages that the KGB, that they'd use to train them to blend into U.S. culture. The SFB might take advantage of that.
Village in the Russian countryside to have their ideal lifestyle. They're gonna have these, you know, foreigners walk around the center of Moscow and St. Petersburg and talk about how beautiful and, you know, pristine and clean everything is and so on. How there's never any homeless people in the street and there's not a single trash once again. And again, in any case, Russia has complete control over these people too, so once again, it's kind of the obvious thing to joke about how, haha, you know, Russia's gonna send every single one of these, you know, base conservative Americans to the front line, you know, to get exploded or whatever. Yes, that is funny. The idea of base...
Oh, that's hilarious.
You know, epic. Guy from Twitter with the handle Groiper USS Liberty 1488, you know.
Yeah, sent out there to the front with no meaningful weapons, no food, no supplies, right? And just...
to Russia because he wants to be based in Trad and then gets mobilized or whatever. That is funny. However, on a serious note, we've just seen that huge prisoner swap that happened between Russia and the West. And Russia essentially got a few people they really wanted by essentially offering American citizens in exchange. And what if Russia has like thousands of American citizens to choose from and to pull from at any point to bargain with the West and do another exchange or something? I mean, it's genius, isn't it? Also, once again, they're going to be doing propaganda. Also, they're going to be, you know, paying taxes or whatever. So overall, it's just a win-win for Russia, kind of. And again, you know, like, these people who are going to try this and move to Russia or whatever, bless their heart. Once again, like, good luck. Good luck, you guys, you know. You need to understand that you're essentially embarking on a journey of complete lawlessness, random, and, you know, you like, the next 10 years of your life are going to be very, very exciting, to say the least. Not happy, not
There's volunteers fighting for Putin. Apparently there's also mercenaries.
Positive, just exciting. You're not going to be bored, essentially. You won't get a break, that's what I'm saying. because we, the Russian citizens, we never get a break.
Surprised that right-wingers haven't joined the Russian army like reactionary vets used to in support of right-wing militaries like South and Central America.
But the thing is that really the only major downside I'm seeing for this with Russia is that if you're going to be giving out visas and residencies willy-nilly, left and right, just by basically with pretty much no background research, based simply on the person saying that, their side of the woke agenda and the left wants to take away their penis or whatever.
Obviously.
There's a big chance that some of these expats or whatever might end up being spies, and there might be like thousands of Western spies roaming around Russia, but that's just something up to them to handle. I don't really care. I'm just saying that if I was president, I would maybe consider that. But actually, I want to bring up a pretty interesting point here, which I'm probably gonna get shit on, but Russia is essentially kind of doing what the West is not to the people who support them in Russia. You know what I'm saying? I mean, at this point, right, we're pretty much in a situation where we're gonna have an Iron Curtain coming up between Russia and the West, and essentially you either end up on this or that side. And once again, when the war between Russia and Ukraine just started, honestly, I expected the West or Western governments to kind of reach out to anti-Putin Russians more in a sense, and maybe actually provide a certain program for Russians who disagree with this war and who, once again, have certain skills or a certain decent income to obtain a visa. I mean, I understand that's already possible. That's already possible through like digital nomad visas or work visas or whatever. And Russians are moving to the West. And again, I'm not really complaining because I still managed to do it. It was just a, difficult process. I live in Portugal right now, once again. But there's a lot of Russians who are stuck in different positions where they actually are not able to apply for a visa. A lot of these are people who left in the very first weeks of the invasion, kind of like me, who didn't have the time to prepare any documents, visas, or anything. So these people are stuck usually in third countries without a citizenship or a residency. They cannot apply to go to Europe, for example. There are certain countries that do provide that. For example, I'm aware that Germany has a humanitarian visa that Russians do get if they're, for example, stuck in a situation where they're essentially being persecuted for their views or whatever in Russia and they're stuck somewhere else and they cannot apply, which is great. But, honestly, once again, some Western politicians were coming out at the start of the war and saying that, we will figure out something to, kind of hold the hand of help out to the Russians who actually, don't want to be Z and participate in this insanity. But essentially, that's kind of where it ended, and there's not been much development since then, I feel like. And there's a lot of people who criticize that, saying that, Russians can't be allowed to get in like this. They're all, Z imperialists, they're all scum, or, they're all gonna be spies, secretly destroying Europe. And look, whatever, you can have a discussion about any of those points, but what I'm saying is essentially is that Russia is actually trying to do what the West wouldn't do. Whereas the West collectively hasn't really offered Russians any kind of way out of their situation if they're a Russian citizen who does not support Vladimir Putin and who wants to leave Russia. Russia is actually doing exactly that. They're like, okay, so you guys out there in the West, you're Z, you're conservative, traditional, you guys hate gay people as well. So yeah, come over and let's have, let's be a jolly old family. And they've already signed the decree, so supposedly this is already going to start happening now. And again, you might say that Russia is doing this just to send people to the front line or whatever, but I honestly don't know, because this is kind of it's a decision that makes kind of too much sense for modern Russia, especially for a country that makes very bad decisions and usually signs very bad laws. To have a law that actually makes sense and to try to bring people who support you over to your side or whatever might be actually kind of genius. Or I'm just probably dumb. I don't know. I probably just don't understand anything about it. I just probably don't realize that once again there's probably a huge danger of spies here or whatnot, but I guess we'll see. If this really does start happening, let's see what is going to really happen to all these Westerners-based conservatives who are going to move.
It's just going to make for some really funny stories. There's going to be really funny articles written about this.
To Russia via this new visa because they hate the woke agenda. So, what do you guys think about this? Would you guys like...
I think, chat, that it's time, once again, to look at the electoral map. What's going on right now, the latest poll numbers, the latest forecast. 538.
Back to today's video. Today is Thursday, August 29th, 2024, and today we are going to be talking about the 2024 presidential election, according to 538, and their recent election forecast that just came out less than a week ago. This election forecast, which has been very interesting to track, especially as it releases past data since the announcement of Joe Biden departing from the presidential race. On the day he left the presidential race, Joe Biden had less than a 50% chance at winning the presidential election against former President Donald Trump. Today, the odds have completely flipped, with Vice President Kamala Harris at a 58% chance at victory and former President Trump at a 42% chance.
Wait, dude wants to move to the Hassan house and kick him out?
Right now, it looks like there seems to be no tie or any reality in which we end up with a 269-269 electoral college map. It seemed far more plausible with a Joe Biden-Donald Trump matchup, but today with Vice President Harris in the advantage, a big question rings through our heads as to where 538 believes her pathway to victory lies.
So this is where we left it last, right? With essentially a 58% chance of Harris winning. Now, look, 58 is a lot more than 42, right? If the poll was 58 to 42, that would be pretty strong evidence. That would be a 16-point lead by Kamala Harris, and that would be pretty strong evidence supporting her eventual victory, right? It'd be really hard to imagine her fumbling a lead like that and losing, right? However, that's not what we're looking at, right? We are looking at probability. And this probability essentially says that slightly less than 6 out of 10 times, you run the simulation and Harris wins. Meaning that there is still, 4 out of 10 times that Trump wins, right? And it's important not to forget that, right? We had numbers in 2016 that we were looking at that were ridiculous in some cases, right? There were some papers and some media outlets that had the chance of a Hillary Clinton victory at somewhere around 95% chance of happening. Now, I do think that the odds may have actually favored Hillary Clinton based on the polling that was seen at the time. And Hillary Clinton did, in fact, win the popular vote, got, 2 million more votes than Donald Trump altogether. But she didn't win the Electoral College, and that's what's important in deciding who the president is. And I think a better, more accurate forecast was probably given by 538 back then. Now, back then it was 538 run by Nate Silver. Nate Silver has moved on and done his own thing and is being pretty cringe somewhere else on the internet now. 538 is sort of on their own now. So, but yeah, even back then, they had it at, 60% to 40% or 66% to 33% or something like that. Essentially 2/3 of a chance. 2 out of 3 times Hillary Clinton wins. 1 out of 3 times, though, Donald Trump wins. And that was the 1 out of 3 times, right? So I don't think that the polls were as wrong as people think that they were. The overall vote totals did favor Hillary Clinton, just not by as much as the polls were showing. And the more accurate election predictions were saying something like 2 out of 3, 66 to 33, something like that. So we're gonna look at what 538 has got now and get updated.
Now, the 2024 race, as I've been saying for a while, has really always been quite competitive for Democrats and Republicans. But things got really bad for Democrats after that first presidential debate when Donald Trump led Joe Biden by roughly 3 points nationwide. Donald Trump had expanded his lead a lot further than where it was before at different periods of time. Right up to the debate, Joe Biden actually started to gain momentum. Donald Trump had maintained an advantage over Joe Biden throughout the duration of the campaign period. According to CNN, through the debate, not a single day in 2024 did Joe Biden lead Donald Trump, a complete flip where Joe Biden led Donald Trump in 100% of the days between Joe Biden announced his candidacy and the November election. 2024, it was entirely different. And so that was up until that first presidential debate when Joe Biden, right beforehand, a week before that debate, ended up in the advantage. And around this point, the Republican Party was getting quite worried because it meant that the lead that Donald Trump had built up was starting to come down to a point where Joe Biden, on average, was taking the advantage. But then, of course, that first debate happened. It was a complete catastrophe for national Democrats, namely President Biden. And so the numbers started to get worse and worse and worse until we ended up with Joe Biden dropping out of the race, where he was down 3.2% nationally. Then came in Vice President Kamala Harris, who now today leads by 3 points nationally. That is a 6-point swing in just around a month's time. And so on the 538 forecast, the results here ends up with Kamala Harris in the advantage, but not a substantial shift. And so that's why I'm also quite interested in exploring where we see the margins really narrowing down. I'll talk to you a bit about what I'm using for characterization so it makes a little bit more sense. But generally speaking, this forecast has actually seen quite a significant change in the way that it has been adapted, in the way that it has been utilized. And they talk about that on the 538 website. Unfortunately, we're not going to spend too much time talking about that, but the headline there is more that they've shifted away from fundamentals, things around unemployment and the economy and incumbency advantage, now more towards a polling and enthusiasm-based model, which has been a general indicator of a general sense of, a set of qualities that has been a factor in practically the majority of the other pollsters and the majority of the other firms that do produce models, which is why Donald Trump led on models like The Economist, where they had Donald Trump at a 2/3 chance of victory, why Donald Trump led on Nate Silver, which had a 2/3 chance of victory. Do I think 538 was in a way onto something beforehand? Possibly, right? I mean, they have had a very, very strong track record when it comes down to understanding the way at which incumbency impacts an election, but still, they've had times in 2022 where they've overestimated Republicans.
Right, chat. I'm going to pee really quick. I will be right back.
Underestimated Democrats.
Hey, Cindy.
And so it's really just.
I'll be right back.
I will say the 2024 election, to me, hopefully, will be one that is led with more accuracy, more of a general understanding. And now that we have two non-incumbents, it's a race that can be more generally understood by, again, enthusiasm factors, rally numbers, overall polling data, fundraising data, so many different points. I think that could be really exciting and really helpful in understanding this race. So you heard a lot of yap. You heard a lot of talking about the 538 model and the polls. Let's go ahead and just dive into this electoral forecast. And so a lot of what is driving it, I think, right now in favor of Kamala Harris in terms of where she's doing the best is the Rust Belt region of the United States. Now, looking early on, when she was up against Donald Trump, she actually was not in a position where she was on track for victory, and that was a really poor point for Democrats. It isn't necessarily to say that I believe those numbers to be true, and Kamala Harris's immediate announcement, she definitely needed time to rebrand herself, become more popular nationwide, but I will say, too, I think her chances probably would have been a little bit higher than what they had put her in, around 47%, maybe around 50%. I think there was immediately a surge of excitement and enthusiasm around her candidacy, but still today, much, much better position. And that's what's most important about this, is that tracking this data over the past month, you can see that Donald Trump's odds at victory have started to decline. That is on a pretty consistent pathway to a point where by election day might be less than a third. And that's really bad news for Donald Trump, because he was the favorite for a majority of the time that we have seen this forecast released against Biden, and honestly speaking, was in the majority of voters, not majority, but rather plurality of voters nationwide throughout the duration of the campaign period. And so to see this collapse in real time really goes to show that an effective and strong Democratic campaign and candidacy can lead to a point where you're in a position where you are now winning on the national forecast, when in reality, you might not have been a month and a half.
Okay.
And so when we take a look at this map here, I'm going to be mapping it on yapms.com, yet another political map simulator. If you've been wondering about anything that I use in my videos, you can check the description box down below. By the way, I saw a few of you guys ask me what map I use here. But here we have our 538 total number of electoral votes, an electoral college map that will be filled in as we go through these states. Now, one thing that has been really consistent throughout this time frame is that Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are going to win their respective safe states, really no matter what. Meaning states like Washington and Oregon and California are never, ever, ever going to the Republican Party, no matter how much happens on the national scale in this election. I mean, Kamala Harris tomorrow could be in a position where she's losing the battleground states, but in no circumstance does she lose the safe states, and the model acknowledges that. States like Idaho and Utah are also grouped into there. And so any state that really has a 95+% chance of victory for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and for Donald Trump, I would argue is even safe. I could see a reality in which it is 90% or higher, but for right now, let's go ahead and just stick with 95 to see what electoral map we end up with. So characterizing all of the states that are necessary, if we look at them, Republicans were hoping New Jersey might be more competitive. Donald Trump started opening up field offices in the state, also started doing rallies in the state. Doesn't really matter to me because I don't think it's going to be that way. Right now, Virginia is pretty solid for Democrats. Minnesota as well makes a lot of sense, but not safe just yet. Democrats are safe, not yet, in Colorado, New Mexico. I would say by margin, probably not, but in terms of my expectation, I'd say so. But no, here we are. roughly 180 electoral votes right now. I think maybe Maine's first would be in there, so 181 for the Democratic Party. Let's move over to Republicans, who have a pretty considerable number of safe states as well. So here we have Missouri and Indiana. Iowa's not in there. Montana is. Alaska is not. So that's quite interesting. When you take a look at this map here, you might be shocked to see that Alaska is not filling in the map when states like South Carolina and Missouri and Indiana, which have been under 15 points in years past, but right now I'd say, Republicans are not exactly in a position where they're going to win Alaska by 15 points plus. Donald Trump has just a 90% chance of victory there. Actually, quite surprising, South Carolina is also not a safe red state. So to save us time, I want to go ahead and continue to characterize.
So, what you're seeing there is a little bit of softening around the edges, right, of the, super pro-MAGA states versus the just kind of pro-MAGA states. And you're seeing states that you might have considered to be, safe, right? South Carolina, who would ever think? Now, this doesn't mean that South Carolina is going to go blue, right? That's not what's on the horizon. That would be very unexpected, but it's just that they're not, it's not quite the slam dunk that it was. And that indicates that shows an overall softening of the support for Trump as well. What's up, Marina? Yes, chat is working. We've got both chats now.
All the states that are likely, these are states that are really not going to
I'm doing something a little interesting tonight, so
out of the Republican Party or Democratic Party, they just aren't going to be decided by massive margins in the way that you might have seen for some of these other states. And the percent chance of victory, again, can help give general indicators of where Kamala Harris has the most strength. Regional advantage in the Deep South, not regional, rather, candidate advantage in the Sun Belt region, regional advantage in the Southwestern region of the United States. Generally speaking, Kamala Harris does provide a lot to the Democratic ticket in those, in the entire Sun Belt. Equally for Donald Trump, he also provides a level of electability and candidacy in the Rust Belt, in Iowa and Ohio, that Republicans typically and historically have not been able to tap into quite well. George W. Bush was really the last Republican who was able to do there, and that was largely because Democrats did not run a strong candidate when it came down to the presidential level in those states, and even then, Democrats still came out ahead. But overall, the Rust Belt region is where Donald Trump really went to show that he had the strength to do it. Republicans down ballot do not do well in those states, and so I'd be quite surprised for us to come to this assumption that he's not necessarily the best for the Rust Belt. Well, he is not the best, but good for.
So yeah, we're seeing, a pretty decisive lead in Wisconsin and Michigan. We're seeing more of a toss-up situation in Pennsylvania, but we're also seeing a toss-up situation in North Carolina, which I kind of did not identify as a swing state. It did not look like a swing state. It did not seem like it was going to be a swing state, but yet we see it in that territory where it at this moment, at least, looks like a toss-up. Same thing with Georgia, same thing with Arizona, same thing with Nevada. So that means that we're starting to see the states that are adjacent to Minnesota, the states that are in the Rust Belt, other than Pennsylvania, solidify a little bit more, lean towards the Kamala Harris, Tim Walz ticket. And whereas everything else in the country, all the other swing states, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, those are up in the air. So here's what that says to me, right? Trump has kind of got to win all of these, I think. Is that correct? See, if he won Pennsylvania, yeah, I guess he could win Pennsylvania and lose Arizona, right? But he's got to win Pennsylvania, and he's got to win most, if not all, of the rest of these states. Nevada. There we go. Nevada's one that, he could lose, because Arizona's got 11, Nevada's got 6. So yeah, I think Trump could lose Nevada, but if he won Pennsylvania and he won everything else, he would win. Saving that, it's like these are 5 states now that Trump needs to pretty much completely win. And that's not likely.
For the Rust Belt, because he has done certainly a tremendous benefit for the Republican Party since 2016, winning those states at the same time, it doesn't mean that these are states that are necessarily taking him back in for an electoral college victory. It just means he's doing better than Romney did and McCain did. Moving past that point, the likely states we're talking about are states like Iowa, states like Ohio, where you have a 75% chance or higher of going to the Republican Party. And so that again means states like South Carolina and Alaska that might not have been there before. Florida, surprisingly enough, is not on that likely characterization. I again disagree with that based on margin, but this is based on odds. And it also seems like based on some new data points in Florida that Democrats actually have a better shot at the state. But overall, I'd say, my personal belief here is that we should not acknowledge it necessarily as this battleground state that can be characterized with the Big Seven. However, it will be closer than the majority of states in the United States. In terms of likely Democratic states as well, this includes states like New Hampshire and Minnesota and Colorado and New Mexico and Virginia. So when we characterize that in, that's really where you start to see Democrats do quite well on the national level. I don't know why Nebraska at large was characterized as safe blue. That might have been a mistake here. But New Hampshire, Virginia, Minnesota, Colorado, New Mexico, going to be pretty solid for the Democratic Party. Nebraska's second, also there at 75%. So that one becomes a likely blue state. And so that leaves us here with remaining 163 electoral college votes. Actually not that surprising, right? In terms of states that Democrats are hopeful to do well in, it includes all 7 of these traditional battleground states and Texas and Florida. So it actually isn't too far out of the fray. I will say that in terms of the easier states to just move out of the way are states like Florida and Texas, which we know are going to be, to the Republican Party. And the numbers here show that Donald Trump and JD Vance are the favorites.
And again, these are moving targets, right? And in different directions, right? Florida seems to be becoming more and more conservative. It seems like there's a self-reinforcing cycle of DeSantis-style conservatism there in Florida, and a trend that will only continue. Whereas Texas, on the other hand, is moving in the other direction. Texas gets a little bit more blue every year, but it's got a Republican governor, and very likely, will stay blue for the foreseeable future. But there is going to be some election where Texas actually goes blue sometime in, I don't know, the next 10 years, probably. Texas will not be red unless they just gerrymander the fuck out of it and strip everybody off the voting rolls, right? Texas is heading in the direction of being more blue, whereas Florida is heading in the direction of being more red.
In Florida, they're the favorites in Texas by quite a bit, but it's still closer than some other states. And I think this is a general trend line that we're seeing again in that Sunbelt region, where Kamala Harris is providing a level of electoral power and presence that might not mean that she wins Florida or wins Texas, but she certainly narrows it up in a way the Democrats did in 2016 and in 2020. Florida has been moving in the wrong direction for Democrats, but maybe she can, patch some of that bleeding just a little bit. I still think she'll lose by more than...
Yeah, it's possible. It's always possible that even with Florida going in a right-wing direction, that you might see a particularly strong candidate, if that's what Kamala Harris turns out to be. If she ends up tapping into that Obama coalition, then she will have a fairly easy time winning the election. And you might actually see some movement in states like Florida. I don't know if it'll flip Florida blue, but you might see an unexpected results. But even if you do, that doesn't mean that the next time that like Waltz or whoever is running for president, that Florida is also going to be, it doesn't arrest the trend. In other words, right? A candidate being popular, it's kind of, statistical noise, so to speak.
Biden did in 2020. Equally, though, we have to acknowledge that right now Democrats are in a position where Florida is not going to be this 20-point electoral blowout like it was in 2022, and that's really good news for the Democratic Party, not only for the presidential ticket, but also down ballot. And that leads us down to 93 toss-up electoral votes, but here's the good news for Democrats. When you're taking a look at states like Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania, they largely are characterized as 55% or higher in terms of the odds of victory for Vice President Harris. And even when you take a look at states that have not been favorable to even Biden or Harris really over the past month, compared to the Rust Belt states, states like Georgia and Arizona, where the numbers aren't moving in a positive direction, but aren't moving in a way that means it's going to be a slam dunk for Democrats like they're hoping for. Democrats clearly have a lot of work to do in these states, but the numbers are getting better than they were a month ago. When Kamala Harris was not the favorite to win this national forecast, Georgia was at a 60% chance for Trump.
So now, compared to and I'm trying to figure out why these states are circled, compared to the election in 2020, Biden won all these states, not Texas, but like the toss-up states, right? Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Arizona. He did not win North Carolina. So for Kamala to have a better election, excuse me, than Biden, it would take her winning all these states, which is actually possible. That, I mean, depending on how that's kind of the trajectory that she's on, right? Where she could win every single one of the swing states. So in other words, every single one of the states that Biden won, she would win. And then if she could tack on North Carolina, then she'd be slightly outdoing Biden. Slightly outdoing Biden. Nothing like Obama's first election, or maybe closer to, you know, where he was at in his re-election, but
today it's tied. Arizona was at a 60% chance for Trump. Today, Harris is in the advantage. And so when we start to see these changes and these shifts here, it again speaks to a general trend line of where Kamala Harris has the most advantages for the Democratic Party and where she provides the most electoral benefit. North Carolina is still the favorite for Trump. Now Nevada moves over into what we would say as a lean Democratic state, 55% or higher. Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania also join that group. So Michigan being 62, Wisconsin being 60, Pennsylvania being 55, that's enough to bring Kamala Harris over the finish line to 276 electoral votes. The good news for her, she's up in the advantage in the state of Arizona. Donald Trump is up the advantage in the state of North Carolina. Georgia right now is a tie. And so we're going to leave it as a toss-up. 16 electoral votes out. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance at 225.
Interesting.
Harris, Governor Tim Walz.
So Georgia's turned into a toss-up according to 538.
287. This is an electoral college victory for the Democratic Party, but it is not.
You can see North Carolina and Arizona apparently could swing pretty easily. Georgia could swing either way at this point. But the other states, right? So just this by itself, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, which again, Pennsylvania is not as solid as the other two states, right? They've got, they're doing pretty well in the states, like I said, right next to Minnesota, right? But Pennsylvania is a little bit less solid. And then Georgia is a toss-up at this point. Arizona, they're ahead. Nevada, they're ahead. That's a pretty favorable map, right?
As big as it was in 2020. And so here we have it. What 538?
I thought Arizona was hella conservative. It definitely is pretty freaking conservative in places, right?
Believes the 2024 electoral map will look like. It's pretty strong, I would say, for Kamala Harris in comparison to where President Biden was, but it's not as strong as it was in 2020. And so Democrats are going to have to come into this election again.
Like I said, 2020, you'd see, actually it's very close to 2020 though. Look at this. Look at this. If she could swing Georgia into her favor, that's the 2020 map, right? If she gets all these states and Georgia, that's the 2020 map.
And fighting for every vote, fighting for every single state, because at this point of this election doesn't feel, and is certainly not, a slam dunk, right? It doesn't feel like one. It doesn't seem like one. And Democrats, I think, are recognizing that, which is why I do think there's still a level of electoral power that is really strong and sits with the modern day Democratic Party. Because they are really jaded from the 2016 election where the polls and the indicators, everything said that Hillary Clinton would be the next president and Donald Trump served out a 4-year term. He might have lost in 2020, but they were sold on this idea of a landslide. Now, in my final 2020 election prediction, I did not have states like Texas or Iowa or Ohio as blue states. I knew in the end, Donald Trump would win them. Donald Trump did invest a lot of money in the states, but arguably so did Democrats. Joe Biden spent over $300 million across those 3 states that I mentioned to lose Iowa by 8, to lose Ohio by 8, to lose Texas by 6. He did, however, flip Georgia for the first time since 92, flip Arizona for the first time since 96, flip back the blue wall of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. But that election, I think, feels very differently than this one does, and so did 2016. And so I think Democrats are really leaving nothing to chance. You see today that Vice President Harris is down in Savannah, Georgia. She is the first candidate, Democrat or Republican, to campaign in that state in a general election season since the 1990s. Democrats are making a play for these core 7 battleground states, and what we are finding is that play.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you compare Georgia to Florida, right? You've got both states that have a lot of transplants from other parts of the country, and with Florida, you have that with an overall trend of moving conservative. Either people come there and they become more conservative, or, the state itself is becoming more conservative. Whereas in Georgia, you have a lot of people moving into, like, particularly like the Atlanta metro area, and that tend to be not conservative, right? So Georgia's going the other direction.
So far is working. They're winning in 5 out of the 7, according to 538. They're tied in one of them and just narrowly down in North Carolina, which would make it the 3rd closest state in the presidential election. Newsflash, exactly what it was like. Very similar to 2020.
Bree Breezy says, why is our country like this? Divided by states that vote a specific way? It feels so weird to me. Yeah, and the fact of the matter, or the net effect of that, right, is that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 swing states, or at least 7 if you count North Carolina, and those are the states where the campaign will take place, right? They don't worry about the rest of these because California is going to go blue, Oregon's going to go blue, Washington's going to go blue, Idaho's going to go red, Tennessee's going to go red, Indiana's going to go red, right? This is not no amount of campaigning is going to change that, right? But as far as Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada, those are definitely up for grabs.
Wisconsin, Arizona, and Georgia were the only states that were narrower than North Carolina in the 2020 presidential. And so to see this state now come back as a very close race, sure, Donald Trump is ahead, but it's simply not enough. Kamala Harris right now, according to 538, takes over 270 electoral votes, which results in her being at 58% in terms of overall chance at winning the election, and gives her over 270 electoral votes that are necessary to win the presidential election.
All right, there we go, chat. So we're going to move from Shorts chat into the full stream chat. I've pinned the URL for you, so you can just go ahead and click on that at your leisure. Right now, it looks like chat is choosing violence, at least as far as the vote goes. Sam Harris meets Destiny in 2nd%. Real reason the leftovers ended in 3rd%, and Tyler moderates the hippy dippy in a lonely 4th position. But we're going to move over to the full scale stream, and we're going to talk about what's going on still with President Sunday and FD Signifier chat. I thought we were done. I thought it was just that President Sunday had a really bad take on FD Signifier's video, and that was going to be it. But chat, FD Signifier saw Sunday's video. He saw Sunday's video, and Tyler covered this, and FD Signifier might have just ended up talking to Westside Tyler. So that's what we're going, but this is what's going on right now. The drama that we have covered has like hybridized and produced a, offspring that is weirder than it. It is now a situation with President Sunday, FD Signifier, and Westside Tyler all wrapped up in it. So we'll take a look at that tonight. I'm going to end the short stream. So if you haven't already, click on that link. I'll post it once more. Will I post it once more? I think I will. Wait, am I trying to post it once more? What's going on? Why can I not post things? It's not. We're going to all go into one big happy chat. So there we go. There is your link, and I'm going to end the stream now, and I will see you on the other side of things. Here we go.